Shut up and sit down.
Hello everyone, and a very big warm welcome to a special HJ event, the 87 Bud at the Glen. Brand new iRacing content, and week 13 we love to bring you these events. And this is a very, very special one for us, the 1987 Ford Thunderbird and Chevy Monte Carlo at Watkins Glen Classic. A little bit of a virtual throwback to the 1987 Cup race that was held here. We've got 90 laps ahead of us today. Some manual race control means there's a chance of some cautions on the racetrack today. These are some very, very challenging but fun cars to drive. Fuel length, tire management, going to be very, very important today for our drivers. These are old school beasts and they require a lot of talent and a lot of bravery behind the wheel. We're hoping that our drivers are going to put on a great show today. I'm David Haynes, our producer's Michael Derby, and I'm joined by Devin Peters. Devin, I've been looking forward to this all week, so have a lot of our drivers. I hope you have too. What are you expecting out of today's race?
I've definitely had a big smile on my face all week long, Haynes. I'm expecting an exciting race. These cars are they're not very confident under the brakes, they're not very confident in the turns, but we've got some really strong drivers in the field today, and I believe that they're going to put on an excellent show for us as they drift these things around the 2.3 mile track here we've got at Watkins Glen.
Yeah, so weather is going to be something to think about today as well. Got your temperature up on the screen. Relatively cool in the air, but mostly cloudy. We've got some patches of sun at times. We've got some overcast weather at other times, leading to some variation in the track temperature, which is a big effect on the tire life for these cars. And we've been hearing that, some drivers, after maybe just 10 laps into their run, have a lot of pain on those rear tires, a lot of horsepower, in excess of 600 horsepower for our cars. They really light up those tires with that old school tire technology. So it's qualifying underway right now. Just seen Anthony Burrows put it on pole, so a great time from him. A couple of drivers still need to put in a time though. We'll see what our starting grid is going to look like. We have 34 drivers for today's race.
Yeah, and it's been tight out there in qualifying. We reset the track state to 0%, just like in the real race where there was a rain shower shortly before the grid lined up. And so these drivers came out from qualifying or from practice where the track was all worn up, and they had to adjust their driving styles as they got started here. And it looks like, judging by the variation in times from practice to qualifying, that only a few were able to make the adjustment. But there's a few more fast drivers still down the order that haven't set a lap yet. So it'll be interesting to see what they're able to do.
Yeah, big variation though between qualifying speed and race pace, I think, is what we're going to see. It's one thing to be quick with one lap. It's another thing entirely to be quick for a 20 or 30 lap run, because these machines eat those tires. There's a couple of drivers out there that have completed their qualifying, but just using the rest of the session to feel out the conditions and get just a little bit more practice as well. We are about 90 seconds away from forming up the grid. We're going to have a 2x2 rolling start for the race, and then throw back to the 1987 Cup rules, the single file restarts. And we've, as best we can, mimicked those 1987 rules. Unfortunately, we couldn't get rid of that pit lane speed limit, Devin.
Yeah, and it's part of the drama from back in the day, but unfortunately the race control wouldn't be able to manage that in the times that we needed it to. But it should be a pretty good facsimile here with drivers driving these 87 Cup cars that are not happy on road courses. I watched the real thing this week, and the distance between the top of the field and the rest, Rusty Wallace ran away with it in that race. I'm not expecting that today based on what we're seeing here in qualifying. There's a number of cars within a half second right at the top of the field.
Yeah, so definitely a good close field, and a lot of our drivers have been tweaking on their setups to make sure they can nurse those tires long as they possibly can in this race. Qualifying is about to wrap up, and then we'll try and bring you that grid, show you how they are going to line up today. So that's qualifying done. Let's take a look at that grid. The front row is going to be Anthony Burrows and Rylan Potter. So that is going to be interesting for those guys off the front row of the grid. Then it's an all HJ second row with Jeff Tyler and Alex Albert. Behind them, Michael Polasek from Lone Wolf Motorsports and Florence Arabian. Dylan Blanton in 7th, Michele Ferraris in 8th, Jake Johansson in 9th, and Wansi Lin in 10th. A lot of great liveries out there. We're excited to show you as well. Plenty of throwback paint, Devon.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've already picked out a few of my favorites today as well. Continuing on down the order, we got, looks like Kyle Clements has just been pipped back to 11th place by Wanzi Lin, with Clifford Eben in 12th place. Philip Resch is in 13th place with Richard Tam in 14th. 15th place goes to Mia Ott with Jacob Alicia lined up in 16th on the grid. Alex Witt in 17th place, Benjamin Morton in 18th. We got Ben Cox in 19th place, John Boatfer in 20th place, Austin Tucker in 21st, Justin McGrory 22nd, Justin Hall 23rd, Jordan Babcock 24th, Dan Suzuki 25th, Travis Floyd 26th, Izara Streeter 27th, and Pierce Maffitt 28th, the last of the drivers to set a time. But we are seeing an interesting split in strategy here with a few drivers, including the first I'll mention here, Aaron Smith, who I know is a quick guy, choosing not to set a qualifying lap. These cars are a ridiculous handful on cold tires, so I'm not that surprised to see folks deciding to line up at the back of the grid and maybe try and avoid some of that carnage the first time through the S's. Aaron Smith 29th. We got Reese Gardner. Sorry, my apologies, my grid's all messed up here. Aaron Smith 29th, Tommy Toe 30th, Keenan Kusin 31st, Jose Solis 32nd, Reese Gardner 33rd, and Brad Clank in 34th.
Yep, so quite a few of the drivers struggling in the 2-lap qualifying to get a clean lap in as the pace car starts to roll away for our pace lap. I've also been told that unfortunately Reese Gardner is not well today. He's not going to be able to take the start, which is a real shame because there's a lot of love out there for Southpaw Racer, but hopefully we'll see him again some other time and hopefully he gets better. They are rolling for our full pace lap, and the anticipation builds for our drivers. It's also building for me. I am beyond excited.
Yeah, nothing makes me happier than seeing classic race cars at a classic track, and that's what we got here today.
Yeah, certainly is. So I think your top tips, top things to look for in today's race, 90 laps is a full cup length race. We're expecting to go maybe just over 2 hours of racing today. Going to be some full course cautions at some point. What effect is that going to have on the strategy for our drivers? I think you're going to want to pit under every caution for a brand new set of tires because these 600 horsepower beasts really eat through them. And what else to look for? Well, long braking distances, and it is not going to be that tough to pass around here because you come into the carousel at full speed, of course. No bus stop, no inner loop back in 1987. So long braking distances, big tire wear, I think is going to mean that some drivers who look after those tires and have a bit of patience really going to move up through the order.
Yeah, and this race was won on fuel mileage in the real deal in 1987. Rusty Wallace coming in, of course, on the last lap for a splash of fuel in order to make his way around and take the checkered flag. I wouldn't be surprised to see something like that unfolding in this race too, because these cars are thirsty and they like to light those tires up and understeer through the fronts every time they get into a corner. That's, of course, on the 3 tires they're still on the ground because that left tire picks up every time they turn in.
Yeah, indeed. That is an interesting thing we've seen from these cars. Not necessarily originally built for a road course, and some of the left-hand corners. A real challenge around here if you pick up the throttle at the wrong point. Well, we're about to go racing for 90 laps at Watkins Glen Classic. The pace car is in, and a bit of a check up there at the front of the field before we get racing. Anthony Burrows leads us right off the start down towards turn 1, the 90. Everyone trying to keep calm on their cold tires, mostly at the front of the grid through turn 1 cleanly. Check up in the back, but good run towards the S's for the first time. Onto the back straight they go, and a good start for everyone in the top 20 or so, but another great jump from Clifford Eben, who's gone from 13th to 7th or so as the battle starts to emerge for first and second. Jeff Tyler's come from second row of the grid to try and challenge Anthony Burrows for the lead.
Oh, and I was just overwhelmed by that beautiful V8 sound as they pounded up the back straight for the first time, but a very clean first lap, and that's great to see. We've got a lot of really skilled drivers here. Of course, we split based on iRating, so that's to be expected, but this is going to be good battling all the way through the field based on what we're seeing here.
Certainly is. So some drivers fast out of the gate, some others thinking about their fuel consumption, thinking about those poor rear tires, and got our first taker on pit road, and that was Benjamin Cox. Maybe he's picked up a bit of damage early. He's definitely not out of it with some yellows later on potentially, but here's the challenge for the race leaders. Jeff Tyler, turn 2, base of the S's, puts his nose down the inside, grabs the lead away from Anthony Burrows, and Alex Albert in third, right with him there as well in that battle. So that's an interesting one to see. Change for the lead. Jeff Tyler's come from third into first place.
Yeah, and I'm getting some reports from the corners that we did see Azara Streeter and one other driver, still looking for a name on that, Reese Gardner, I think. Maybe Brad Clank. Must have been Brad Clank, slide off the track on that first lap. So not perfectly clean, but of course they're still in it. We got full course cautions if anything goes wrong. So once these tires roll out, I wouldn't be surprised to see someone take a trip and get it parked somewhere on track.
So the Asbury Motorsports driver of Clifford Eben in a solid battle there. We say he's come up through the field into 7th, but now Florence Arabian right behind him in another one of our favourite throwback liveries, trying to take that spot away. That's been where the real battling has been inside of our top 10 here as they come towards turn 1, the 90. You go downhill a little bit, dipping into that turn 1, and that extends the braking distances. Drivers braking 500 feet before the corner, and Clifford Eben's going to lose out there. Didn't get the drive he wanted up towards the S's. Florence Arabian, I think, has gone and jumped him for that position. And the S's, what a challenge in these cars. In almost any other race car, it is flat up the hill. These cars, not a lot of traction, a lot of horsepower. Really got to lift out a little bit coming into those corners.
Yeah, and I was describing this race to some of the more gray-haired members of my racing team in real life, and they were reminding me that it wasn't too uncommon until the last 10, 15 years that professional race drivers spend a lot of time off the throttle. And so we're seeing a lot of that as these guys try to keep these cars pointed forwards as they slip and slide around the corners.
So it's underneath a second to divide our top 3 cars out on track. Jeff Tyler's starting to break away a little bit in the lead, but Anthony Burrows in second, thoroughly under pressure from Alex Albert. It's Monte Carlo leading, but we've got 2 Thunderbirds battling over second and third. And Anthony Burrows is just going to hold on to that one, but what about the run onto the back straight? He's a bit wiggly. Albert right up underneath him, trying to keep as much horsepower and as much throttle as he can towards the carousel. Again, long braking distances here, and Albert is looking towards the inside, and so long as he can get that thing pulled up, I think he's gone and grabbed second place. So lap 4, and Burrows, with his fantastic qualifying performance, looks like he's starting to fade a little bit on those Goodyear tires.
Yeah, and there is a big difference between being able to put in one lap and being able to put in a fast lap here on these BioSupply tires. We'll take a minute, though. take a look at that Alex Albert car as close as you can. It might look familiar, especially if you've recently watched the 1987 season of NASCAR, and you'll find that it's slightly different than what you might expect. Tim Richmond was, of course, racing in 1987 before his tragic retirement in 1989, and Alex Albert looks to have taken inspiration from that Richmond livery and put the Team Hugh Jass logos in the place of the Folders one. Looks great. I think that might be my favorite, but we'll see how many times that changes during the race.
So big winners so far in the first 5 or so laps. And we've been running green since that initial drop of the green flag. It's Mia Ott up 7 places as Clifford Evans started to fade a bit in the Asbury Motorsports Monte Carlo. Jeff Tyler and Alex Albert, the HJ drivers, also both up 2 spots from the second row of the grid into the lead of the race. And Aaron Smith, I think, didn't get the qualifying performance he wanted, but he's been pacey all through practice. And he's come from right at the back of the field up into 18th, trying to pick off some spots. So there's a lot of great racing happening in this field. And you know that everyone's pace changes throughout these stints because some drivers are doing better looking after those tires and have maybe a more compliant long stint setup than some others.
Yeah, and Aaron Smith was saying in the garage before the race that he was planning to start at the back, avoid the qualifying lap because he figured there'd be carnage. Of course, his prediction didn't pan out, but that hasn't stopped him from taking those 10 spots since the start of the race. Jose Solis looks like he might have been on the strategy too, running in 20th place, car number 75. He's following Aaron Smith 2 cars behind with Jacob Alicia between them, and he's also managed to make up 12 spots since the start of the race too. So we've got some different strategies playing out here in the midfield as we hurdle into our 6th lap of this race.
Yeah, a lot of variation to the kind of drivers we've got today as well. We've got some road course drivers. We've also got some oval drivers who have decided that they like these cars enough to come join this race. So an interesting mix of oval fanatics and road course ringers today. We'll see who comes up trumps after 90 laps. Bit of a stack up, I'd have to say, from the middle of the field, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th there. They are driving properly close amongst those drivers in that section of the field.
I'm just watching John Boefter right in front of Aaron Smith here back in 17th place as he makes a move up the inside of Alex Witt into turn 1. Looks like Aaron Smith's going to follow him through. These cars are really hard to get back online once you make one little mistake, and one little mistake equals more heat in the tires, so you can't be making too many of those, right? Aaron Smith comes through and passes both of them, both Alex Witt and Joan Bofer, as they head up the S's, making quick work of those guys.
Yeah, Witt losing a couple spots there, just not getting a good drive out of turn 1, and that is going to compromise you up the hill as well, side by side. Botefer under pressure coming into the carousels, cedes a position there, but then might chop it back underneath. And we've seen that happen a couple of times here, as they're now going to be side by side coming down the cup cut down towards the penultimate corner. In the end, Botefer couldn't fight that spot back.
I just got a report from the 03 car. He's actually had his shifter break. But in the spirit of 1987 racing, I think he's decided to move on. That's Keenan Kusin running the 03. He's decided to continue racing even with a broken shifter. I think the guys back in this era would have definitely just stuck it in high gear and left it. And I think Kusin might be attempting something similar to that after a little bit of a technical drama on his end.
So Jeff Tyler's started to build out a bit of a lead, making the lead of the race not quite as interesting as some of the fantastic battles deeper through the field. Alex Albert got a little bit over 3rd place Anthony Burrows. It's 10th on back. Great little fight there as Clifford Evans' early charge fades a little bit. Got Jake Johansson, 1C Lynn, and Philip Resch in those spots there. They're properly packed together.
Well, yeah, and I've been riding along a little bit with Clifford Eben, and as he spins his tires coming out of a big bend there, you can tell that he's been using them pretty hard. He's had a few moments where he's gotten a little deep, and we'll see if he's able to hold on to those early gains or if he's going to be given back as soon as those tires start to go away. Jake Johansson's definitely making his presence known as he creeps up on him. And the Michigan Ford dealers liveried Wanzi Lin is also making a move here on Jake Johansson just in front of him. Peeking out as they head into turn one. Looks like he'll stay in line, but yeah, these guys are battling hard for position.
Yeah, saw Lin definitely practicing the long runs in practice, so I think the tyres are really going to last there on the number 30, as Eben and Jake Johansson are sort of the question marks here as they're all coming towards the run on the back straight towards the carousel. Pressure from Philip Resch here though, and Benjamin Morton in the sort of turquoisey vehicle behind is up 5 spots as well. So stack up through the carousel, Clifford Eben leading this train, being smooth on the controls, not giving up anything, but clearly with not as much grip as some of the drivers behind. Ooh, late dive into the penultimate corner there from Philip Resch. And that is an interesting way to try and make a move through these last 2 corners.
He's taking some inspiration from Michael Waltrip on that one, for better or for worse. And the livery that doing the same thing.
So Clifford Eben, that lap, a 1:15.4. The next 10 cars or so behind, quite a bit quicker. So there's a pack catching as well here, as it's going to be side by side at the base of the S's. Both of these drivers not going to be able to keep the throttle pinned like that. And how is Jake Johansson going to navigate this one to try and get a better run onto the back straight? And it's his tail-happy Monte Carlo there for Clifford Eben, side by side. He's got the outside into the carousel, and I don't think that's the preferred way to do this.
Oh, these things are a handful. It's awesome. Nice dive.
So it's almost looking like 2 positions lost for Eben there, trying to get the traction on the exit of the carousel. Might just hold off Lin in this case, but Johansson through and free, up 1 spot there into 9th, released from the train, but he goes wide. He locks the tyre up, and he's just going to... No, he's all sideways. He's sideways in front of the pack. Lots of cars together. And we have our first caution of the day as Jake Johansson sideways gets collected by a couple cars. And we're going to see our pace car collect the field. That was, cars racing closely, and then one driver loses it and the couple come together.
Yeah, and unfortunately, another limitation of the rule set in iRacing is that we can't have the leaders giving back laps to the field. So we do have a few drivers that have already gone a lap down, whether due to technical difficulties or to some early incidents. And it looks like Dan Suzuki, Michelle Ferraris, Justin Hall, and Pierce Maffitt have all suffered some sort of incident that have put them a lap down. Isaiah Streeter is 2 laps down, and Jeremy McGregor early on dropping all the way to 8 laps down. It must have been a significant accident for him that we didn't catch on the cameras. Looking at the front of the field, though, Jeff Tyler cruising back towards the start-finish line, and he'd managed to build about a 3.5-second lead. And with how fast he's going back to the pace car, I don't think he has any intention of losing it.
So this is a very interesting time for a caution, you would say. Lap 11. You can see that already in the first 10 laps, some of our drivers were starting to lose those tyres, whereas others would have been probably happy for this to have gone green all race long. So who's going to jump onto the lane? Who is going to take tyres at this stop? What about your leader, Jeff Tyler? That is, they're going to come around, and I'm not sure when the pit lane exactly opens under this caution, if they're going to have to go around 1 more lap behind the pace car. If the pit lane is open right now, I think quite a few drivers are going to take that opportunity. Let's see, Devin.
Yeah, and I'm expecting the pit lane to open up next time by here. So these guys ought to be lining up real nice and tight, and then we'll get to see all these pit crews in action as we head into the pit lane. few guys, though, are really wiping their brows. Ben Cox and Brad Clank, who had both nearly lost a lap at the back of the field, are luckily going to be able to keep their lap after those unfortunate dramas for them. Brad Clank missed the grid due to some sort of error, and Ben Cox must have had some sort of drama in the early laps too.
Yeah, so our top 26 drivers still on the lead lap, and if you're deeper in the field and you've got a bit of damage, you're certainly gonna be happy with this, an opportunity to fix up the car a little bit, put some more fuel in, and then put a new set of Goodyear tires on. And we've seen the in testing that the fuel tanks on these cars is definitely going to get them past 30 laps on a stint if they want. The real question is about the tire management and the tire life. There's only a few cars and few drivers out there that look like they could make the tires go 30 laps. So let's see what happens this time as they come to the pit entry. Your leader, Jeff Tyler's looking towards pit road. Top 3, top 4, all on the lane. The first driver to stay out. Who's
That's
that?
Kusan and Dan Suzuki look like they're trying to get their laps back here. So they've stayed out rather than going to the pit lane. Wanzi Lin, though, has decided not to pit, and he's the first of our leading group to make that choice. And I can't say I blame him. Aaron Smith and Jose Salas were able to make up some ground in the pits, since the start of the race. But they did show that track position is pretty important out here. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see what that ends up meaning for them.
So I think just about everyone on the lead lap has pitted except for Wanzi Lin. So that is an interesting decision. I did say a driver who looked like they had good mileage on the tires were really babysitting the rubber, but everyone else deciding that a brand new set of boots is the way to go.
Yeah, for sure. And we'll see if he lives to regret that decision. It'll be interesting. I think a lot of teams will be looking at how Wanzi does after this first stop here, because if he can make this work, this might be a brilliant move. But if he can't, he might pay the price here with the whole field having fresh rubber behind him.
There's a couple drivers there that would have gotten a lap back if everyone on the lead lap pitted, but one driver hasn't. So that does appear it's kept Michele Ferraris, Dan Suzuki, and Keenan Kusin one lap down at this point. So we are going to be going green at the end of this lap. Pretty quick yellow at this short cup circuit.
Yeah, and it looks like the stewards have judged that all those spins at the back of the pack were racing incidents. So I don't think we'll see any penalties or anything like that resulting from this. Of course, this being 1987, drivers will have at it, boys, and they're going to make sure things are clean amongst themselves.
Green flag out. Wanzi Lin's going to lead the field on the restart, but a couple cars back is everyone else on 10-lap fresher tyres as they are 4 wide coming down the pit straight there. And Lin misses the braking marker into 1, lets some of these other drivers back onto the lead lap. And Jeff Tyler gets a little bit of contact trying to work his way through, but he's right to the bumper of your leader now. And we will see the difference between fresh tyres and old tyres, because the fastest lap of the race so far is a 12.1, whereas a lot of the drivers after 8 laps had been doing 1:14. So there is a 2-3 seconds a lap difference, new tyres to old tyres.
Wanzi really tried to pinch Jeff Tyler into the Big Bend there, but it didn't matter. Jeff Tyler was able to stick to the bottom with Rylan Potter right behind him, another guy who had a strong qualifying session, and Wanzi Lin already relegated back to 3rd place.
Yep, really, really telling how quickly some of these drivers are able to work through. Anthony Burrows, a dive into the final corner, easily executed, much better braking performance, better turning performance, and puts down those 600 horsepower much more cleanly. We are one lap green since the caution, and lap 15 of 90, all going relatively smoothly, I think, up front at the moment.
Yep, and Clifford Evans showing some pace behind Wanzi Lin too. Clifford, of course, we saw him make some serious ground on fresh tires after the last pit stop. Interestingly enough, I don't know if Alex Albert took a little extra fuel or what, but he lost a few positions during that pit cycle as he makes a move up the inside of Clifford Evans here down the back straight. It looks like he'll have him easily cleared by the time we head into the big bend. Yeah, and sure enough, Clifford Evans going to tuck in behind him as both of them look to make their way past Lynn here, heading towards the next set of turns.
Yeah, 2 for 1 there for Alex Albert in the Thunderbird. Great mix of Monte Carlos and Thunderbirds out there. They nearly go 3 wide. Clifford Eben now's trying to work his way past Lynn, gets that job done, but nearly got boxed in for a minute there. The 70 of Aaron Smith, our biggest mover in the race so far, showing how he's managed to do that. Up 22 spots since the start of this race, pitted under that caution. We've just seen a lot of these drivers setting personal best laps now that we are green and they're on fresh tires.
Yeah, not to mention a little bit of rubber on the track. Of course, the air temp is very cold today, 69 degrees Fahrenheit, but the track temp is up around 100 degrees Fahrenheit, and we'd expect that to climb maybe even another 5-10 degrees higher based on what we saw in practice. So some of these drivers that only join near the end of the practice session might be more experienced as the track gets a little bit warmer.
Certainly. So from the lead of the race on the restart, Lynn now back into 9th. Next driver trying to size that up, Dylan Blanton in the Quaker State car. Quaker State Thunderbird trying to get a good run off the carousel. Is it close enough to make a move? Diving it down the inside on the brakes, and I think once you've got a window open, those fresh tires really, really help. They are meaning seconds per lap here. We've seen a 115 from Lynn compared to a 112 from our leaders.
Yeah, and hopefully it looks like we got a caution.
Caution once again, and we had this number 17 car spun in the final corner. I wonder if anyone else was involved in that one. I'll see if we can maybe wind it back on the 17 right before that caution. But, they say yellows breed yellows, and with some lapped cars in the field, I think, and some drivers very eager to use their new tires, we have our second caution of the day quite rapidly.
It looks like he threw up a lot of smoke, but he was able to gather it back up. So I'm not sure if there was maybe a few other cars because there's some cars at the back of this field that look pretty tore up. I'm thinking Jake Johansson or Richard Tam might have been involved in something.
There was all contact between the 92 and the 76, and then the 44 collected in that one as well. So there was a 3-car incident as well in the penultimate corner. And that opens up the strategy window once again, because we've only been green 4 laps since the last caution when everyone pitted. Is everyone going to pit again under this caution, or is there drivers who think, no, this is too recent, I'm going to stay out this time? That shorter green period then throws another question into the strategy works.
And it might be interesting to see if Wanzi Lin, I gotta imagine that he decides to come down this time, right? And then stretches his fuel window an extra 5-10 laps, and under green flag, that might become very significant, especially if guys are pitting out and, mixture of fresh and old tires. Either way, we got some interesting decisions ahead of everyone here, I think.
Take a look at that top 10. Jeff Tyler leading. Rylan Potter has done well from the restart of the last caution to get second back. Anthony Burrows then in third, your pole sitter, and Mia Ott's moved up into fourth, making some solid ground. Alex Albert is running in fifth right now, and Clifford Eben in sixth, always seems to do good those first couple laps on a fresh set of tyres. So he'll be hoping for more cautions. Everyone else probably looking for some longer green flag runs. Aaron Smith, like we said, big mover up into 7th. Michael Polasek in 8th. Lynn in 9th, and it's Dylan Blanton rounding out the top 10. Another big mover as well, Jose Solis Jr. into 12th. So I think some of the oval guys are showing us that the control on the right pedal and the right attitude is enough to help you around a road course as well.
I'd agree with that. We've definitely seen less of the guys at the front spinning up the tires on the exit corner than we have elsewhere. That's for sure.
So they're coming to the pit in. Your leader, Jeff Tyler, tries to fake out the field and he makes everyone behind him pit, but Jeff Tyler stays out.
Ooh.
A lot of the other drivers are coming in, though. That was interesting from Jeff Tyler. A bit of mind games with the field. But has he made the right call? As you see, about 80% of the field dive onto pit road under caution. That tyre wear really, really dictating the strategy, I think, for the bulk of the field.
We're going to have to get a replay on Mia Ott there. It looked like Mia Ott decided on pit entry that it was too wide, and a lot of other drivers hadn't decided it was too wide. And he collected Alex Albert and maybe one other driver on the way into the pit lane there. And unfortunately for him, it looks like it's cost him some damage on the left rear of his bumper. And I'm not sure how the other drivers have been affected just yet, but I can see the drivers. There's a few drivers that are a little toasty about that decision on the way into the pit lane. So we'll see how that plays out on track.
Yeah, I mean, that's a bit of contact under caution, not what everyone is really hoping for there. There were 2, maybe 3 wide coming into pit road, and some drivers, as you say, hadn't made up their mind. So off pit road, what am I seeing? Still waiting for the order to shuffle through, but has Florence Arabian managed to grab a couple through the pit cycle?
I think Anthony Burrows is actually the first of the drivers who pitted.
Correct. Yeah,
and we've got Rylan Potter slotting in behind them, though. But it looks like Burrows' pit crew did do a good job, got him out ahead after their pit stop. Maybe he only took left-hand side. I didn't catch it there in the pits. I'll go take a look.
Looking at our man Jordan Babcock, he's up into 8th from, where did he start? Deeper in the field. So yeah, Babs Nation are out in force at the Glen today for their man, the great Babsby, and he is putting on the show. He is an oval man of big proportions for a long time, so he was keen for this event, we know. And hopefully the Babs Nation fans are cheering him on. He's in a good spot now. It's about to go green flag racing, I think.
Ooh, and they're checking up a little bit, too wide. Ooh, and we'll see if any penalties result from a few drivers deciding to make early moves before the line there. 3 wide into turn 1.
Jeff Tyler, Florence Arabian on their older tyres lead the field first and second through. And one driver's gone around in turn 1, but I don't think anyone's collected the wall there. Jacob Alacia dropping down the order. I can see on the timing screen as well. So hopefully we get this one green flag racing cleanly this time. The field has spread out a little bit. Big pack behind 5th place Clifford Eben.
Yeah, Phil Lebrecht took it real deep into the turn there, into turn number 1, and he paid the price for that, losing a few positions.
So a lot of drivers trying to go around the outside of the carousel as the 164 of Justin Hall is a lap down and has a big angry pack behind him. And whoa, there is a huge incident at the exit of the carousel. The track is blocked. And I think I saw Dan Suzuki get fired into the air.
Yeah, that was shocking. Thankfully, we're in a sim race because otherwise we might be asking if everyone's okay. Yeah, and that was Dan Suzuki launched into space. Brad Clank's car looks like it's finished right off. Not sure he'll be able to find his way back into the grid after that much damage.
That was a huge incident there.
Oh, and
Coming out of the carousel.
That's a real shame. The pit lane was closed. It looked like Kyle Clements decided to try and make it around a lap, but with all the damage he'd suffered on the front, and I know this is going to disappoint some of the fans in the YouTube chat there, Kyle Clements, he's had to tow back to the pits, so that's going to cost him some spots and maybe a lap. But exciting stuff after that restart, and we'll have to see if these drivers can make it clean the next time around. Cold tires and aggression didn't combine well that time.
No, sir. So that was indeed a very, very difficult restart for a lot of our drivers. Quite a few damaged cars out there. Thankfully, these are pretty tank vehicles. I mean, they can take some hits, some bruises, and the aerodynamics, well, I don't think they had any when they left the factory. So a couple crinkles on the bodywork doesn't seem to hurt them too bad.
Yeah, aerodynamics not exactly front of the mind in 1987 NASCAR, but you can definitely bend up your chassis pretty easily with just a little bit of contact on a wheel. So hopefully that hasn't happened to any of our drivers. But we are coming back around to the pit lane. It'll be interesting to see if anyone decides half a lap is enough to warrant a fresh set of tires, or maybe they just decide they want a little bit extra fuel, especially if they're back in the middle of the pack. Jeff Tyler doesn't look like he's going to be taking that option. We'll keep an eye further on down the field.
Yeah, so a couple are in. Aaron Smith is on the lane. It's going to be followed in by Philip Resch, Ben Morton. I imagine a lot of these drivers, their pit stops right now are going to be necessitated by damage rather than the tire life. So most of your top 15 or so stay out, but deeper in the field, the drivers who aren't going to lose many positions have decided why not take a fresh set of boots, and then a few of them maybe have some required repairs, or at least decided that early in the race, if they're going to stay on the lead lap, why not get a bit of damage fixed?
Well, and a few of those guys were staying out hoping that the leaders might give them a break and get an extra lap back early on in the race, but that doesn't look like it's going to happen based on the way the leaders have kind of split their strategy on the first couple of pit stops. So now they've decided, heck, let's just get tires and fuel and maybe a sledgehammer to knock out some of the bends on the body panels.
So 22 of 90 laps completed, and we are hoping to get another green flag run underway like we had in the first 15 laps of this race, and see who maybe has the tire longevity. That'll be one to see.
Yep, management is going to be important. Now, thankfully, Watkins Glen is a very short road course, at least in this configuration. So these caution laps rather are coming by very quickly, and we're already into the final complex of turns right at the front of the field as we get ready for this next green flag.
Yep, lights are off on those pace car. Jeff Tyler looking to restart the field as he has done from every caution we've had so far today. And he is in the interesting position of having those slightly older tires than everyone behind who pitted under the previous caution. So the iRacing pace car goes for pit entry. And when will Jeff Tyler drop the hammer? Well, it's now, but he hasn't got a huge jump on the guys behind. Florence Arabian, Clifford Eben, a solid jump off the restart there, has now got his nose into third. Going to try and go around the outside of turn one. They are 3 wide. Jordan Babcock gets shoved out, which is, got Babs Nation jeering from the stands, and there's a
another wreck
together at the bottom of the S.
Oh, wow. Yeah, and they've collected a few there. Race control might have to have a chat with some of these guys because they're getting real aggressive on these cold tires.
So, 4th caution of the day. You can see Mia Ott's been tangled up in that. Once Lynn's also, I think, had to tow the car onto pit road. And my goodness, not the restart a lot of these guys want.
Yeah, I saw Michelle Ferraris. Who else got collected in that? Looks like Philip Resch, Ben Morton lost some time. Yeah, and Mia's car is pretty wrecked.
Lot of smoke and oil out on the circuit. Jeff Tyler is still your leader, but Clifford Eben, in the one corner we were green, managed to grab a handful of spots. He's trucking around in second. Florence Arabian is in third. Alex Albert in fourth. So we'll see. Race control, I think, only had to throw out some cautions there so far, but might have to have a look at that one and see what might be in order for penalties. Some drivers maybe being too eager or too aggressive on the start, or just generally not being aware of what's going on around them. So unfortunately, it feels like we've spent the last 20 minutes or so under caution here at Watkins Glen.
Yeah, and unlike the real deal in 1987, you can't get out of the car and go pop a guy in the mouth if he wronged you on the track. So, yeah, I'm expecting the stewards will step in and give these guys a talking to under this caution flag and see if we can get this straightened out and get back to racing.
Field being led through the carousel on the 24th time of asking by the pace car. And pit road ought to be opening this time, or was it open last time?
I'm expecting it this time. Yeah, because the pace car only picked him up after not even stopping on the pit lane.
Been a busy day for that pace car driver then, indeed. So we're heading around towards that pit entry, and you imagine if Jeff Tyler's stayed out the last two cautions, he's going to be staying out this time again. He hasn't really had to use those tyres off the last couple restarts, but maybe some of the drivers on the lead lap further back are going to take the chance. The top 10 or so staying out, but there's a few thinking about the lane. Alex Albert, I think your highest placed man, who's jumped onto pit road. He's got Jose Solis Jr., Dylan Blanton joining him. But that's a few bit further down, but most of our top field deciding that they are going to still stay out. Haven't gotten much use out of their tyres since they put them on under the previous cautions.
Yeah, there is something to be said for getting off strategy, though, especially at a race like this, where once we get out of those first few laps, the race can go into some real long caution-free stretches once the guys are all spread out.
So Alex Albert, after his stop, is then back into 21st position. So he must be betting on it being quite a bit of a green flag run after this, that if he's going to be able to use those tyres, make any advantage, make some spots up after this. So yeah, quite a lot of different strategies in the field now. 12 lap-old tyres for Jeff Tyler, but about 9 of those have been under caution. Then almost everyone else with near enough to new tyres in the field. So we're going to hopefully get some green flag running when the pace car comes in at the end of this one.
Yep. Looking back through the field, there are a few guys that have managed to benefit from all this. Of course, we mentioned Jordan Babcock all the way up to 8th place earlier. Travis Floyd right behind him, Canadian, is the second Canadian in the field, actually behind Rylan Potter. But he's managed to make up 17 spots since the start of the race. And Tommy Toe, right behind him in 10th place, has also managed to make up about 20 spots as well. So pretty solid performances from those guys. We'll see if they can make it stick once the green flag falls, as the pace car comes around the final corner, getting ready for the drop of that green flag.
Yep, pace car in. Jeff puts the power down a little bit before the flagman shows the green flag. Hopefully that stretches our field out as they come towards turn 1. Good jump from Tyler. Clifford Eben doing a good job following along with him. Florence Arabian a little bit wide there on the older tyres as Anthony Burrows come up through into third.
Yeah, and they are too wide all the way back through the field as we get into the S's for the first time. But it looks like discretion. Yes, discretion is going to win out. As we see Mia Ott and actually Izera Streeter make a little bit of contact, but both guys were able to get it straightened out.
Yep, so some of those drivers with the fresher tyres making some moves deeper in the field, all relatively calm right at the front. It's that middle meat of the field where there are a lot of too wide going on.
Well, it's always
green through the scene of last caution's accident, and everyone looking a little more under control, thankfully, on this start.
And of course, it's always on the driver to make sure that they're making their overtake safely, but it can be said that it's challenging to estimate closing speeds when there's 3 or 4 seconds a lap differential between old tires and fresh tires. Old tires and fresh tires. So, your braking point might be 50 meters deeper than a guy who's on old tires if you are on fresh tires.
4 wide on the pit straight for a bit there, but everyone appears to have found just enough real estate into turn 1, the 90, and we stay green at Watkins Glen, back of the field, coming up through the S's.
Philip Resch might have gotten a slowdown here. He's off the pace on the inside of the back straight. See if he rejoins the field as they get into Big Bend here. Yeah, and sure enough, he seems to have figured out whatever was ailing him, so whether it was a slowdown or a misgear, he's back up to pace as they come off the corner.
Very easy to light up the rear tyres at the top of the S's in these cars and then get a horrible run all the way down to the carousel. That's also a possibility that could have happened. Jeff Tyler leads the field 1 green flag run done after this caution. Second place is, I think, where some of the spice is going to start happening, as we've seen the tyres start to fade a bit for Clifford Eben. He's under pressure from Anthony Burrows. Florence Arabian has calmed down a bit in 4th there as well, starting to stack up behind 2nd.
Yeah, and Arabian showed some real pace earlier in qualifying and in practice, so he's definitely close to the front there. Eben has been up there, but more so due to pit strategy, I'd say. He's got 1 less stop than a lot of the guys who are a little deeper in the field, but he's trying to make it work, and pit strategy is part of the game too, right? But he's going to have to hold off Anthony Burrows as they come off the Big Bend, and looks like Burrows might have a little run. He's peeking out. Not sure he'll make the move this time.
There's also pressure on Jordan Babcock, Babs Nation. Right behind him, the very, very fast man of Aaron Smith, who has slightly newer tyres, pitting 2 cautions ago, trying to find a way through, and immediately following him's Travis Floyd, Alex Albert trying to catch that pack as well. So 8th place here. Babs Nation is up 16 places, but not as strong as Aaron Smith, who's up 20 and looking to make it 21. How about the run into turn 1? Well defended from Babs.
Yeah, and for those folks who are less familiar maybe with the name Aaron Smith, they might have heard of Dinner with Racers. Aaron Smith, of course, was able to put away the Dinner with Racers Thursday night blunder championship, and he showed that by racing in a wide variety of cars as part of that series, including sprint cars on road courses at some point. So, hustling a Monte Carlo or a Thunderbird around a Watkins Glen track like this, that ought to be no thing for a guy like him. And he's shown that by making up over 20 spots since the start of the race, after his decision, of course, early to start from the back of the field. This is costing him some time and some life on those tires, though, I got to imagine. So he's going to be pushing to try and get by Babs. The first time Babs makes a bad move, and Babs runs a little wide there. Aaron's up alongside him. but Babs has the inside line on the next one, and Aaron's forced to wait up again, giving up some time and now letting Alex Albert actually get alongside him. Albert, of course, up at the front early after qualifying fourth, and he took fresh tires under the last stop, and he's going to try and make his move on Babcock this time as well.
Yeah, those fresh tyres. Albert moving through the field. He picked off Travis Floyd. We saw that one. He's just picked off Aaron Smith, and now he's up behind his good friend Jordan Babcock, trying to make the move in the S's, and somehow that works. There might have been a bit of cooperation from Babcock there. Otherwise, he got loose and off the line. 3 spots in a lap. Easy done for Alex Albert, and they're starting to check up behind Babcock, 3 wide, heading towards the carousel. Travis Floyd trying to go around the outside. Jake Johansson and Mia Ott trying to go to the inside. Tough couple corners for Jordan Babcock there.
Yeah, 5 spots in one straightaway, and to be honest, I'm not even sure that he actually lifted. I think Alex Albert just gave him that tiny little tap through the S's, and that was enough to make Babcock light up the tires and lose a little bit of time. And then, as you spoke about earlier, get that terrible run up the back straight and lose some serious time. Aaron Smith locks up the tires as they're heading down into the last set of corners before the start-finish straight. And Mia Ott still looking to find his way around Jake Johansson, I believe, who's in front of him, running the Grip Hacks livery. Definitely need some of those for this race. Looks like he breaks a little bit earlier, though, and lets Mia Ott by. And we'll see if he tries to make a challenge against Mia on the way up the S's. No, it looks like Mia's got the position fully covered off.
Yeah, so Thunderbird working there to cover off the move. And so some of those drivers that pitted a little out of sequence, charging back up through the field. So big moves from Alex Albert and Mia Ott since we dropped the green flag a couple laps ago. Working lap 31, and Eben and Burrows are switching positions for second and third. As they do that, though, they are letting Jeff Tyler bolt away in the lead. He's got over 2.5 seconds. The field now in second here, starting to pack up behind Eben, with Burrows, Arabian, Polasek, Ryland Potter, and John Botifa right in this train. It looks like that Asbury Motorsports Monte Carlo just cannot hold on to its rear tyres after 3 or 4 green flag laps.
Yeah, and between driving style and setup, it's an easy enough thing to do, light up those rear tires and melt them off. But yeah, Jeff Tyler's definitely doing his impression of Rusty Wallace at the front of this field in the real race. Of course, Rusty had nearly a 30-second lead at different points in the race, and Jeff, while he's been holding the guys behind him 2, 3, 4, even 5 or 6 seconds back in the limited green flag running we've had so far, as we head now into the 32nd lap with another 58 to go.
It's starting to look good for Florence Arabian in this one as well. Really sticking with these guys as it's wide through the carousel for Clifford Eben. What about the power down on the exit of the corner? Burrows follows suit. So good pack, 2nd through to 7th here. The fastest driver on circuit right now is actually Aaron Smith back in 9th. So Albert, Smith, Ott, Johansson might all catch this as Clifford Eben really helps out Jeff Tyler by being the cork in the bottle in 2nd place.
Yeah, and Ferenz Arabian is making a move up the inside on the front straight here. And it looks like with that drive from the last corner, he ought to be able to make this stick. They hold it too wide through the corner. And yeah, Arabian gets the drive off the corner, and he's going to be able to make that move on the way into the S's. Let's see if he's got a chance of passing Clifford Eben, because certainly Burrows wasn't able to do it before him.
Absolutely adore this paint scheme on the number 42 for Arabian. A real throwback to my childhood and a lot of people's first experience with stock cars, with the Hornet Daytona USA livery. Having a look to the inside here, half trying to defend Burrows, half trying to take a look at Clifford Eben. So yeah, definitely looks like the tyres are good for Arabian here. A big slide. Clifford Eben is going to come under pressure, holding the middle of the road, trying to defend into the penultimate corner, then comes back across. My goodness, moving all over the circuit, maybe going to get forced out wide here. Arabian looking for a way through on Big C. has not yet been able to work it. This is a robust defense from Eben at this point in the racetrack. They are too wide, too deep for second place coming across the start-finish line. The inside belongs to Arabian into turn 1. And is that going to be enough to grab the spot? How's the traction coming towards the top of the hill? Not good enough for Eben.
Yeah, and Arabian, I think, was getting a little bit fed up because he did not leave any space for Clifford Eben, but he kind of has a rough line through the first of those S's and gives up a little bit. Eben gives up a little bit as well, though, and now he's in the sights of Anthony Burrows, who now with the proof of concept ahead of him is going to try and make his move down into that big bend at the end of the straightaway. And yeah, he gets the line alongside.
For Clifford Eben, gets him very sideways.
And he's lucky because in 1987, that part of the track was not paved. And so if you went out there, you were riding on the gravel and probably heading right into the wall. He gives up a few spots there, though, and Ryland Potter now peeking alongside him. Ooh, and this is some tight battling here in the top 10.
Yeah, indeed. So a bit of excitement in this leading pack, and it's all helped Tyler build out a little bit more of a lead. Struggles there for Clifford Eben as he loses out a couple spots, and he's trying to muscle Potter down towards turn 1. But I think Ryland Potter on the same age tyres just looks to be holding on to them a little bit better.
And, we had mentioned Alex Albert was making up some time through the field, but that car number 33, well, he locked it up heading into the second to last corner there and slid all the way across the gravel before he was able to gather it up, losing only one spot to Aaron Smith, but losing plenty of time on his chase up to that lead pack. And so he'll be having to repass a few guys, actually. Looks like Mia Otts alongside him as they get back, or as he tries to catch up to those leaders.
Yeah, so little pack here trying to charge up towards the lead. Need to be careful of how hard they fight each other. Albert, Ott, and Johansson, three of our kind of fastest drivers we've had at points, working their way back up through the field. But as you said, that problem for Albert on the previous lap cost him a couple seconds. Through the penultimate corner, he goes wide and gets some of the grass. That's going to cost him one spot. Mia Ott jumps Albert there into 9th. And is Johansson going to take the opportunity to try and line this one up? Albert's starting to struggle, and he's got basically the freshest tyres in the field.
I wonder if Mia Ott takes the drift entry to that corner. That's going to cost him some time. Again, as he shifts up and tries to get the next gear, Alex Albert takes advantage and makes a move up the inside, and Jake Johansson likes to look at that too. Not going to be able to do it, though, as Mia closes the door. But Alex Albert, I wonder if he made some sort of change on the last pit stop, maybe threw on some lower tire pressure or something like that on the set of the fronts. But anyway, he's having a bit of a struggle.
Yeah, a lot of our drivers have also told me that they're moving the brake bias as they go through the stint as well, because when you're on a brand new set, if you got that brake bias really far forwards, you're not going to be able to make the car turn, as Alex Albert demonstrates into the carousel running quite wide there. But then deeper into the stint, if you've got that bias towards the rear tires wear out drastically. You get some wheel hop with the downshifts, and that gets you all kinds of sideways coming into the corners. So, our drivers starting to struggle, and that's always how these cars are going to be. Albert showing that even though he's got the fresh tires, he needs to focus on those braking markers, and they come up on you so quickly. We're seeing 500, 600 foot braking distances for these 87 Cup cars. They're heavy, they don't have the strongest brakes, they don't have a lot of grip, and you certainly need to wall them up before you try and throw them into a corner. Lead of the race, Jeff Tyler has 5 seconds, but he wasn't quite as quick as Florence Arabian on the previous lap. But there's a Struggles for Arabian. He's now the cork in the bottle in second. Burrows right behind. John Botifer, and maybe a bit of traffic in there as well. Ryland Potter, Michael Polasek catching them. It's the Polaroid car of Isara Streeter, who's in there, and whoa, Arabian, and gets spun by, the nose comes in underneath from, who was that? Might have been Burrows. Was Arabian going for the pit lane already, and there was a miscommunication? How far into the stint was Arabian? 25 laps. I think Arabian might have been going for the pit lane, and someone's tried to cross underneath, not realizing it.
Well, and that wasn't helped by the fact that there was a car rejoining. And what car was that? Well, that was Jeff Tyler at the front of the field. Jeff Tyler missed his braking point and made a huge run through the gravel and lost a bunch of time, all the time that he had gained. Big wreck.
So we get another caution, and that's at the top of the hill, involving second place and back there. The lap down car of Isara Streeter trying to keep out of the way, but everyone very loose at the top of the S's. Bunch of cars come together there. Wow.
Looks like Isara Streeter and the 00 had some contact there, thinking with the number 97 of Ryland Potter. Yeah, and just came across Ryland Potter's nose, and she didn't have a chance there once they made contact.
Wow. So, that brings out bit of it brings out the caution then, and I tell you what has happened for Florence Arabian, because
that might actually worked out really well for him.
Before the yellow comes out, I think that's actually a lucky move.
Yeah, I'm certain he wasn't very happy about it a minute ago, but now that caution flag is out, he might inherit the lead.
Yeah, so Arabian on the outlap, back in 20th place. And you imagine the green flag run we just had then, Jeff Tyler is 26 laps on his tyres. Almost everyone else is 20 or 15 green flag laps on their tyres now at this point. I think we're probably going to expect another run on pit road here on lap 39. And it's looking good for Florence Arabian, who has somehow lucked into that one. I think maybe Arabian saw some of that traffic that pack was catching, and that's influenced when he's pitted, and it's worked out well.
Yeah, absolutely. He's definitely doing that Daytona car proud with that kind of pit strategy.
So my eyes are on your leader, Jeff Tyler. He's not far away from the pit entry. The whole field is now checked up behind him. On the lead lap, we have 21 cars, the last of which at this moment is Florence Arabian. And I don't see how it would work out at all for Jeff Tyler to stay out at this point, and he's very clearly going for pit entry. Most of the field following him in as well. As Clifford Eben knocks over one of the commitment cones. He's not a fan of pit road speed limits.
I think a few of these guys must have watched that. Was it the Chinese Grand Prix where Vettel overtook two guys on the entry to the pit lane? Anyways, a few guys have tried that overtake move on the entry to the pit lane here, perhaps inspired by that, and trying to make up as much ground as they can. But we've got pretty dang near the whole field coming down to take some 4 fresh tires and fuel.
Yeah, the amount of time that we'd had since the previous caution made it kind of a no-brainer for everyone to pit now. If they stayed out, they're going to have to pit in the next 5 laps or so anyway. So race off of pit road is thoroughly won here by Anthony Burrows, and then Jeff Tyler is going to come out behind him, Aaron Smith, Clifford Eben. But yeah, no doubt, huge winner here. Florence Arabian, same number of green flag laps on his tyres as everyone else, is in the lead of the race right now.
And you know what? Aaron Smith actually made that fuel strategy that he had played by coming in under that third caution, I believe. If this is the fourth one, he came in under that last caution and topped up on fuel, and so his stop was so much shorter than everyone else's that I think he made up at least 5 positions, maybe 8, under that yellow flag.
So second through to 21st, all pitted under that caution. It was just about perfectly timed for everyone to want to take it.
What do you say? And they all mutually decided to wreck it? Or more likely, the tires went off a cliff and people weren't expecting it?
There's a couple of factors at play there that sort of caused the caution to happen near when everyone was already thinking about the pit window. And certainly it gets tougher to race door to door, and it gets sketchier coming up through those S's as your tires start wearing off and forcing you closer towards your pit window. Lights are out. And green flag waves. Florence Arabian is your leader. It's the lap down car of Watkins Glen who actually leads to the green flag. They are going to be too wide. Jeff Tyler trying to grab some spots off Clifford Eben and Anthony Burrows. Back round through turn 1. Almost everyone's pretty clean, which we like to see. So up through the S's, your leader Arabian very rapidly under pressure from Burrows.
We've got a few good moves here. Looks like Mia Ott is going to take the inside line away from Michael Polasek as they head down in the Big Bend. Got a few drivers lining up too wide behind them, and she makes that move stick for sure. Ferenz Arabian got a little wide there, gave up a few, and Aaron Smith's going to get another from him. Alex Albert too.
Yeah, Arabian getting absolutely swamped as your first and second place cars, Tyler and Burrows, share a bit of paint there. Aaron Smith gets super wiggly into the penultimate corner, but that has not worked out for Arabian, going from the lead back into 6th place. And it's not from having old tires, just from maybe missing the braking point towards the carousel. A lot of drivers looking to gain a position down the pit straight, including Jeff Tyler, who's down the inside of Anthony Burrows for the lead.
And you can see them kicking up sparks and putting up smoke. Tires smoking and fenders dragging. These guys are working hard.
Jeff Tyler back to the lead of the race, then grabbing that spot away from Anthony Burrows. Clifford Eben is in 3rd. He's got the driver of Alex Albert in 4th place right up behind him as Mia Ott drops down the order. Haven't got my eyes on what's happened there, but that is 15 or so spots lost.
Oof. Did a full 360 on the way up the S's. Tapped the wall twice. Car looks straight, and she'll be able to continue on, but that cost a lot of time. And
so we say green on that one. Alex Albert's looking to the inside of Clifford Eben right now into the penultimate corner. Eben never wants to give up any single position. And he's managed to somehow muscle Albert out of that one around the outside of the penultimate corner as they're going to complete another green flag lap. And Albert's looking for another way past, and this time into turn 1. They're side by side, but you are just never going to get Clifford Eben to roll over and give up a spot. That's what we've definitely seen so far.
Yeah, he's doing his Ryan Newman impression and just holding his line and locking it down. And these cars with so little grip and so little aero, I mean, if you don't have the ideal racing line, you're giving up time every time. Aaron Smith might see an opportunity here, though, as he goes wide of Alex Albert on the exit of the S's. Oh, as they're all sliding around. And Alex picks up a little draft off of Clifford Eben. 3 wide. And, a tap from Alex Albert onto Clifford Eben. Looks like Alex is going to do the gentlemanly thing and, at least let Aaron Smith by.
Yeah, he definitely thought about it. They were almost going to go 3 wide into the carousel there, and it's a good thing that little bit of contact, that tap, was all that resulted from it. Aaron Smith then sort of went around the outside of both of them, grabbed a couple positions. He's 26 positions gained since the grid and running in 3rd place right now. Eben dropped back into 6th, and then there's a pack behind there. Polasek, Jake Johansson, Philip Resch as well.
Yeah, and Ryland Potter is has actually managed just to take a position away from Kyle Clemens there, it looks like, as they headed down into turn 1. Some real tight battles all the way up and down the order, though, and I think a few drivers on different setups that come in at different parts of the run is really contributing to it. But the field is starting to shake itself out and spread out. And we are even seeing the return of a few drivers up to the front.
Yeah, this is being very new cars to the iRacing service. There's no conventional wisdom about how to set these up just yet. I've seen all kinds of different tire pressures being used, and yeah, people just trying to still work out what works over a long run on these cars, because what's fast over 1 lap is not what's fast over 20 green flag laps.
Well, it's a real challenge with these things being set up to turn left. Their suspension mounting points are all asymmetrical, and so you might think that you've made the track bar straight by making the numbers even on the setup page, but it might not actually be straight in real life.
So Jeff Tyler trying to break away in the lead once again. He's definitely looked like one of the stronger drivers all race. He's got that one worked out. Burrows in 2nd, still has them all single file behind him. Aaron Smith, a couple car lengths back, behind that is Alex Albert, and then a couple car lengths back behind that, Florence Arabian. Clifford Evans still 5 laps on those tyres, showing that it's only the first couple laps he appears to be able to go forwards on them.
Might be all he needs, though, if they get to the end of the race and have a late caution.
Yeah, indeed. Couple spots moving just outside the top 10. Alex Witt, Dylan Blanton, Benjamin Morton working here, and Blanton's under a lot of pressure from the turquoise and red trading paints looking machine of Benjamin Morton there. Just having a look to the inside of turn 1. Not close enough, but sometimes just having a look is enough to have your opposition go a bit too deep on the brakes and maybe mess it up a little bit. I'm seeing slightly different liveries on my screen than we're getting on the broadcast, but everyone has some interesting liveries, no doubt. Blanton looking to try and size this one up still, coming through the S's. Maybe gets a slightly tighter run coming at the very top of the S's. Is that going to lead to an overtaking opportunity into the carousel? Looks to the inside. Does Morton on Blanton. If you can get the nose in there, that can be a position gained. And I think that has just about worked out. As Blanton gets it very sideways on the exit. Doesn't help his run off, and sure doesn't help the tyre longevity either. He gets moved back into 12th.
Yeah. And it looks like, if we're being honest, after that last caution, this field might have straightened itself out. There was a lot of mixed up positions after that set of 3 cautions, but after this one, it looks like we're starting to stretch out a little bit and see, the real fast guys up front making a little bit of a gap on the guys behind, and the slower guys making a few errors. Well, they're making their way towards the back if they aren't there already. Still got 21 cars on the lead lap, and a number that are just a lap down. So we'll have to keep an eye on how everyone's doing before the end of this race.
Action starting to form up. A 2nd place as Aaron Smith gets so sideways, clouts that outside against the Armco, but keeps it on circuit, and he might lose out a spot to Alex Albert here. Indeed, he will. Well, Aaron Smith was right up behind Burrows for 2nd place as that pack started to close up a bit. He's pushed it a little bit too hard coming up the S's, and that was the result. A very scary moment for him and everyone behind. They keep green, they keep it racing. Clifford Eben in 6th is coming under pressure now from Michael Polasek as well. And Jake Johansson, Philip Resch trying to line up behind that one.
Yeah, and you got to imagine that next time by Aaron Smith's going to go, thank you, Wall, because that car was surely going around if he didn't clip it exactly the way he did. And we tick by onto lap 48, over halfway done here, of course, going to 90 laps, just like the real deal did back in 1987. And plenty of racing to go. If they keep up action at this pace, we're going to be exhausted by the time this thing winds out.
Yeah, for all the speed differences we had in qualifying, for how tough these cars are to drive, and the tire drop off and that, it is still very close in our top 10. I mean, it is first through to ninth within 7 seconds right now. We're seeing some great packs second, great battle going on for sixth right now as well, where that has been a very tail happy, difficult looking car to drive for the 55 of Clifford Eben. He gets it sideways again coming out the carousel. Is that going to give Polasek a run? And we've seen you need a run and some confidence and your elbows out to get past that number 55 car today.
Yeah, every piece of the road and a few parts of your fenders, that's for sure.
Yep, no doubt on that one as they go to complete another lap. Fastest car in the field at the moment is Jake Johansson, who's ranging up on the back of these two battling. Nose down the inside wasn't close enough for Polasek that time. But yeah, got with Johansson right behind, closing in and looking racy as well. The stewards are going to have to investigate him with the Grip Hacks engineering car. He's putting that to good effect.
Yeah, absolutely. And even at the front of the field, Jeff Tyler, who's been putting in some real quick laps, you got to wonder how much of a role setup is playing in all this. Of course, this being an open setup race, guys could do more or less whatever they wanted to these cars to get them to go faster. And I know that Jeff Tyler...
Here's the move.
Ooh.
Eben couldn't get it turned to the inside of the carousel, and then Polasek was looking right down the inside there, but just didn't from that narrow inside. He won't get the room. He wanted tires on the grass in the braking zone. He spears across the circuit, doesn't hit anyone, and hopefully will keep that car going. But it just goes to show that these cars are squirrely under brakes, and he got just a little bit too much on the grass trying to give room to Cliff Eben.
Yeah, anyways, I was just trying to give props to Jeff Tyler there because in addition to Jake Johansson being real fast, Jeff Tyler at the front has been putting down some pretty spectacular laps, if we're being honest. He's well known as a sort of setup guy around the HJ squad, and he has seemingly put a magic setup underneath that car, the way he's been able to make some gap from the guys behind him. He's one of only two drivers in the 14s on that last lap.
Tires have given out a little bit for Clifford Eben. He absolutely lit up the rears coming out of turn one, had to stomp on the brakes to keep it out of the barrier, and he's lost 3 positions in doing that to Michael Polasek, Jake Johansson, and Philip Resch all go through. So maybe those good years have started to hit a bit of a cliff for the driver of the same age. I swear I didn't start that sentence meaning to make a pun. I tell you what, though, long run pace is looking much better for Florence Arabian, who's picked up 2 spots from Alex Albert and Aaron Smith lately. So we saw that, I think, in the previous green flag run. He'd stayed out, and then they went green a couple laps, and the pace was starting to look good for him as well. So really, depending on how long the green flag run is to the checkered flag in this race, those drivers who are quick on lap 15 of the run are looking very, very threatening compared to the drivers who are sort of one-lap wonders.
Yeah, and I think a piece of that puzzle has got to be what the weather's doing here. Of course, we started out this race 69 degrees outside, and the track temp quickly rose to over 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Well, it's sunk back down now, and we're back to about 89 degrees Fahrenheit on the track temp, which is a pretty significant change, especially for these bias ply tires that really like to eat themselves up. And in addition to that, we started with a clean track, and as you can all see, between the lockups and the tire spins on the way off the corner, these guys have laid down plenty of rubber. Ferenz Arabian making a move here on Anthony Burrows, who got a little bit loose himself, proving that long-run pace that you were talking about as he makes his way into second place. That was a solid move on the way out of that corner.
Yeah, fantastic. fantastic racing, just keeping the car not too sideways, being calm with the inputs, really paid dividends right there for Arabian, who were on that lap half a second quicker than JT in the lead. So 7/10 of a second faster than Jeff Tyler in the lead. So yeah, this definitely could still close up. Jeff Tyler's built out a gap at all of our restarts, looking like he's got decent longevity to those tires, but he's definitely not got this one absolutely covered. And didn't we see him start to fade a little bit one of the previous, right before the most recent caution?
Yeah, he was locking up the tires and starting to lose it a little bit, especially on the second half of the lap. So I think Ferenz Arabian is praying for a long green flag run here, and I think I am too. I'd really love to see these guys come down and try and make a green flag pit stop, get down to speed with 25, 30 lap old tires, you know?
Yeah, pit entry is a bit of a challenge, I guess, here, and even more so once your tires are absolutely hurting. We're past the halfway point, so lap 52 of 90. That is 38-39 laps to go from this point on. And I think once we're hit lap 60, drivers could theoretically pit and get to the end on fuel. Whether they can get to the end on tires from there is entirely up to interpretation, it must be said. Jeff Tyler stemmed the bleeding a little bit, only lost 1/10 on that lap. But Florence Arabian is not under pressure whatsoever, as Anthony Burrows, now in third, starts to fade and come under pressure from Aaron Smith.
Yeah, and these guys are all kind of proven what they've got in these cars, maybe for the first time this race. And Aaron Smith is one of the guys that has proven he's got a lot behind the wheel of that car, as he's made up more than 25 positions since the start of the race.
Yeah, despite that moment at the top of the S's where he was sort of saved by leaning on the guardrail, he's starting to look pretty good now. He's trying to size up Anthony Burrows, who again has a big wiggle trying to put the power down. It's now going to look to defend the inside. But I think once you're defending that hard, it's sort of a lost cause as well. A bit of a wiggle from Aaron Smith trying to cross it back underneath, trying to get a run to get himself into third place, because the longer he waits, it looks like the further Florence Arabian and Jeff Tyler get away from him in the lead. He's being held up a bit here.
Yeah, and it's not exactly a super speedway here. These cars are not they're not particularly aerodynamic, but even in the draft, they're not making up a ton of time, as we see Anthony make a little mistake there, comes back across the track, clears off Aaron Smith. Whew, that must have been close. I don't know if the spotter cleared him or not, or if he was just feeling brave. But the way both these cars are moving, Aaron Smith might have a chance here by the end of the straightaway.
Yeah, both these guys really holding onto these cars by the scruff of their neck to take them around the lap and through the corners. Smith has calmed down a little bit. You know, he was looking here and looking there. Now he's sort of staying in line unless he's got a much stronger run on his hands. And it's the run off the carousel that is proving very challenging, very important. You know, everyone has got their different gear final drive ratios as well. Some drivers, you know, maybe going for the slightly longer gears, some drivers with the shorter gears, and maybe the taller ratios mean you don't spin up the rears as much.
Yeah, that's something I hadn't thought about as I was, trying to figure out what these guys might have planned for their setups today. But definitely a factor as Aaron takes a look to the inside. Not going to make it happen this time on Anthony. A little further back in the field, though, there's a couple cars that are making some moves. Ryland Potter had a couple of moments a little bit earlier, and he's the first of the cars a lap down, but he's making his way up through this field, hoping that he can maybe race his way back onto the lead lap. Tommy Two-Toe, not sure exactly how to say that one, car number 44. He's not around anyone at the moment, but he's managed to make up some time from an early stop in the race where he lost some time. He's made 10 spots since the start of the race, so a pretty good recovery effort from him. And just up the road from him, we've got Travis Floyd and Jacob Alicia battling very closely for what looks like 18th and 19th position. Travis, wearing the Hugh Jass livery, is being outpaced, though, by Jacob Alicia after a bit of a scruffy exit off the S's. So good racing all the way up and down the field here.
Yeah, Lacia was one of those drivers who was really trying to practice the long runs and the tyre conservation. So right now, what are we, 16 laps since everyone pitted under the most recent caution. We've had maybe 14 or 15 green flag laps. Right now is when that really begins to pay benefits if you've worked out how to look after them tyres.
Yeah, for sure. We got Wanzi Lin, who we haven't mentioned in a little bit, making a move, also trying to make up their lap after the incident earlier in the race that we caught. Luckily, it looks like that car was able to get fixed up in the pit lane. It looks spotless. So hopefully for their sake, they've got the long run pace to get back on the lead lap as well.
Got my eyes on another pack starting to form up behind Clifford Eben. He's dropped back into ninth. He's got a lap down car of Rylan Potter with him there, but then who looks like he's going to get back a lap. Then immediately behind that is Benjamin Morton and Alex Witt, who have closed in on the struggling Asbury Motorsports 55. And as he struggles through the penultimate corner, immediately Benjamin Morton is right on him. So see what happens here right on the fringes of the top 10.
I think Clifford Evans feeling the pain of having to get offline and let that lapper by as Benjamin Morton makes a move up the inside. One time through the marbles. Oh, and it's real close. One time through the marbles is enough to make these tires really uncomfortable to drive on, and Ben Morton is doing his best to make Clifford run out on those marbles. And makes the move, takes the spot away, and Alex Witt, right behind, is probably licking his chops, hoping to do the same as they head down the back straight.
Three of them all really close on the back straight here. Alex Witt trying to find a way past. I don't think Clifford Eben is done fighting this one, but he's really struggling to keep the rears in check in the braking zones is what I've been seeing. And then, of course, struggling under throttle is what you kind of do in these cars on fresh tires as well. So, yeah, Morton did get that spot through the S's, and now Alex Witt, I think, is trying to be the next one. We've got the defensive line from Eben, tries to cut back across late, and that works this time, but I'm not sure that's going to work every single occasion. Witt has to wait to try to find another opportunity. Breaks into turn one has definitely been a struggle zone for Clifford Eben.
And it's the lowest, nearly the lowest point on this track as they head down into that turn one downhill braking zone. So hard to get a normal car stopped on that corner, and real hard to get these hulking V8s slowed down into that corner. That's for sure.
And just 2 seconds behind this battle we got our eyes on, Mia Ott is the fastest driver out on track right now, doing a 1:14.6 compared to a 1:16.4 for Clifford Evans. So catching 2 seconds a lap, only 2 seconds back. So maybe she'll join this battle as well. Woo! Eben is kind of holding up Alex Witt.
She took the drift line again. If this was a Formula Drift race, Mia would definitely be leading the points right now. But I'm beginning to wonder if on a long green flag run like this, that drifting strategy might actually pay off.
Well, we'll wonder what the fastest way to drive these cars is on the different tyre states, but certainly you can wear off the material on these tyres quite quickly. You can also heat them up, and once they're hot, they continue to slide. Right in front, Alex Witt's got the nose in front of Eben and has the inside line into turn one. Is he brave enough on the brakes in that circumstance to grab the position? Still going to be side by side as there's a bit of a wiggle on the grass. Side by side through the S's. It looks like being the outside of turn two is tough, but it gives him the inside of turn three, and he is not giving up despite how difficult that car looks to drive.
And there's another little three-car battle forming up here. Anthony Burrows, Aaron Smith, and Alex Albert for third to fifth have been beginning to tighten up, and I'm not going to say trade paint, but definitely getting pretty close to it as we get even further into this run. Nearly, 20 laps since the last stop? 22, 24, depending on when they stopped.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what happens. A lot of these guys struggling on their tyres. We're now on lap 60. Drivers could pit now under green and then get to the end from here. So Burrows, Smith, Alex Albert, all checked up into turn one. Albert's looking for a way on Smith. Smith's now going to try and look to the inside of the S's on Burrows, and it might work side by side coming up through the S's. You want to get clear before that left-hander. And Alex Albert's also trying to size it up, but Smith's gone and grabbed a spot, gotten himself back into the top three.
Yeah, and Burrows clipped a little bit of the corner, the curb there, and looked like he lost some time trying to accelerate out of that corner, but man, these things are a handful right now. I wonder which one of the leaders is going to be the first to blink.
Oh, bit of hip and shoulder contact
and
there.
Aaron
Smith is around, and he's lost out big time as guys went hip and shoulder behind him. So Alex Albert's going to grab 2 spots into third, and that is not looking good for Aaron Smith.
But you know what? If I'm Ferenz Arabian or anyone, I mean, seeing these guys at the front starting to struggle, I might be tempted to go and get tires right away, because caution can't be far away if guys are losing it all on their own like that. And Alex, speaking of, Aaron Smith looks like he's going to be the first one to take the bait on the green flag pit stops. And we'll see after that issue if the rest of the leaders notice him dropping down there, because if he can get 4 or 5 laps of undercut here, he might be really contending once the pit stops cycle through.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Jeff Tyler in the lead, had built it out to 5 seconds. Forrest Arabian has drilled it down to about 2.5 and is definitely looking quicker at this point in the run. So we'll see what happens there. If it's green all the way to the end, you have to say that the long run pace is looking good for Arabian.
He's regularly taking 4/10, even half a second out of Jeff Tyler at this point in the run. So it's definitely something that he's enjoying the longer this stint stretches out. These drivers might have done different fuel calculations than us too, of course, and they might think that they need a little bit of extra fuel to get to the end. You can't quite stop on lap 60 for some of them, especially if they're really heavy on the throttle pedal.
Yeah, well, we're only 20 green flag laps into this run for most of these drivers. There's still 28 to go. I think the fuel is probably not really the concern. No one wants to pit too early and have absolutely nothing underneath them and hit that tire cliff right at the end. They might try and cut it in half. So if they go another 3 laps, that'd be 25 laps to go, 25 laps into the current stint. So maybe 3 or 4 laps, then we're at that halfway point between when the green flag dropped after the last caution and the checkered flag. So I think that kind of opens up the green flag pit window. And hey, Forrest Arabian massively benefited out of taking that green flag stop. Last time we had a decent green flag run.
Yeah. And it is still benefiting him, it seems. I mean, he's still running 4/10 faster than Jeff nearly every single lap.
Interesting to remember
close up in no time.
that Arabian led the field at the most recent green flag start, then dropped back to 6th or 7th or so, just didn't have that pace immediately on the fresh tires. And then, later into this stint has just come alive. Alex Albert from 3rd has come onto the lane, so he's taking that gamble. Meanwhile, at the lead, it's underneath a 2nd at the moment. So this is an interesting phase in the race strategy-wise. We've got a gamble from Alex Albert, and if Tyler and Arabian stay out longer, Arabian could get back to the lead of the race.
Well, my eyes are peeled on Aaron Smith. I know he had that issue, but he also got to get to the pits earlier than those guys, and we'll see. Fresh tires ought to be worth 3 seconds. He might be quick enough on his 2nd lap after the pit stop here to get ahead of Alex Albert on the pit exit, especially if Alex is coming out on those cold tires and going to struggle a little bit.
6,
Alex
7, and
Albert's
8.
just left the pit lane.
Johansson is backing up Mia Ott, who's backing up Ben Morton. So into the carousel they go, and Ott's kind of trying to look for the inside on Johansson, washes out a little bit. No contact made, thankfully. Oh, as there's a little bit of a tap on the rear then from Ben Mort.
And our leaders continue by the pits without stopping again. Yeah, and Aaron has made up all the time he lost from that spin. He's right up behind Alex Albert as they head into the Big Bend. So that undercut is paying off for him. And the leaders at the front, if they're not aware, someone needs to get on the radio and warn them. These guys with the fresh tires, well, they're coming. Last time by, Aaron Smith ran a 1:12.4, and last time by, Jeff Tyler ran a 1:15 flat. So they are making up big ground every single lap that the leaders decide not to pit.
Yeah, the undercut is truly massive. A 2 or 3 lap undercut can get you 5 or 6 seconds with how good those brand new tires are. The thing is, if we stay green from here until the end, these two guys, Albert and Smith, are going to be really, really exposed compared to some drivers who run it a little bit longer. We've got Polasek from the top 10 on the pit road as well. So Jacob Alasia jumps in as well. So green flag stops are happening, and for just about the first time in this race, with the exception of Florence Arabian, who had a tough lap last time. He's now dropped 2.5 seconds back off the lead, so maybe he got close, started pushing it a bit too hard.
Mia Ott and Jake Johansson haven't let anything calm down while we looked away from them. Mia Ott's going to make a move nice, and she slides it right up the inside of Jake Johansson there. But both of them are really struggling on tire grip, sideways through everything, including the Big Bend the last time by. And it looks like Johansson's actually, he's making a break for the pits. So he's decided we're going to let those two slide. And he's going to be followed in by Alex Witt are deciding that it now is their time for tire. Oh, yeah.
Devon, so Tyler and Arabian came in. You have to say Arabian probably following Jeff Tyler. And then I think some of the other drivers have reacted to that. I got to see if Arabian's car went up on the jacks, because I don't think it did. Did you see fuel only? 13 seconds. That is very much against the conventional wisdom. Definitely saw tires taken from Jeff Tyler, who comes out just ahead of Alex Albert and Aaron Smith. So you see that undercut from Albert and Smith has brought them right back towards the lead of the race. The mind boggles on the strategy there for Florence Arabian.
Well, it only takes 4 or 5 laps for the tires to drop off to be running into that 13, 14 kind of range. And, Arabian on his fast laps, he's still running in the 14. So maybe he feels like he can either get the track position now and hope for caution later, or maybe he really thinks that he can run this all the way to the end, or at least a little deeper into the end of the race. Maybe he'll take tires on the last stop, and some of these other guys will be tempted not to.
Oh, traffic in front of Jeff Tyler. They're too wide, the 17 and the 13, and he is immediately caught by Alex Albert, who set the fastest lap of the race the other time around. So Albert senses his opportunity. It's a bunch more drivers. Morton, Ott, Blanton all dive onto the lane as well. So 24 laps to go. Not a bad time to be taking a green flag stop, I think.
Yeah. And really, honestly, really clean driving from all the drivers here. Really impressive, different paces, different strategies playing out, and, having to get around the slower guys when you're on the fresh tires and vice versa, let the faster guys by. So really impressive driving from our whole field here.
So we're in that weird phase where quite a bit of the field have decided to take what ought to be their final pit stop, and a few drivers are staying out and trying to have those fresh tires right at the end. Anthony Burrows, who was in the lead, now pits, and your leading driver who's pitted for a set of tires is Jeff Tyler. But how quickly is he going to catch Florence Arabian?
Well, there's a few other names worth looking at. Clifford Evans diving into the pits. He's in 3rd place on the track right now, though hard to say where it'll be after it all shakes out. And Philip Resch has actually decided to stay out for at least another lap. And frankly, looking at his pace, he's not that far off it either.
shaping up for an interesting finish because that lap just then by Arabian, a 14.5. Jeff Tyler has a 12.2, almost matches his best lap of the race, gets within a tenth of the fastest lap of the race. So Tyler taking more than 2 seconds out of the car that's going to be your de facto leader, the leading of the cars that are fueled to get to the end. So Arabian is under pressure right now.
Yeah, we can't forget about Alex Albert. He is struggling a bit more than Jeff Tyler at this point in the race for the grip, because of course he stopped 4 or 5 laps earlier, but he is also putting pressure on Jeff Tyler at this point. And if Arabian makes it tough on Tyler to make the pass, well, Alex Albert could be right up there again on Jeff's bumper, pushing to the end.
So Resh on the pit lane basically sorts out our order, 23 laps to go, and everyone inside of your top 10 is now pitted, fueled to get to the end from here. Jeff Tyler has the hammer down, sets the fastest lap of the race just now in his pursuit of the lead. It's underneath a second. Arabian could only manage a 14.8, so Tyler on those new tires is 2.7 seconds per lap quicker right now. Surely he can get the move done before this lap is over with that kind of advantage.
Got to think it. But you also got to think that Arabian's banking on another pit stop, because I can hardly imagine these guys going another 30 laps on those tires at the end of the race. I mean, that just seems tough to imagine with how much fall off we've been seeing.
Here's the lead of the race. There's nothing in it. Arabian staying to the right-hand side. Jeff Tyler is going to pull back through into the lead on his fresh tires. It's Arabian who somehow opted not to take them. So that is clearly on what we've seen right now, not working out for Arabian, as Tyler resumes the race lead, seconds per lap faster. Nothing Arabian could do. Alex Albert 3 seconds back off that. So we got Aaron Smith and Michael Polisek, who might actually battle over 4th and 5th. 3-lap newer tires for Polisek, and he's within about half a second.
I'm just enjoying this racing. Now, Alex Albert's also managed to put together some good laps. He's catching up on Ferenz Arabian to the tune of about 1.5 seconds a lap, but of course, he's got a bigger gap, 3.5 seconds left to go. And Aaron Smith, believe it or not, despite pitting earlier, is also seeming to struggle on this new set of tires. So I don't know if he got a bad one, but I've seen more than a few lockups from him in the last few laps, and he's dropped nearly 6 seconds off of Alex Albert since that undercut put him right on Alex's bumper. And as you see him again, he's drifting his way through the big bend and frankly giving up time to Michael Polisek behind him, who's now going to be putting on the pressure.
Yeah, indeed. Still some great battles to get us to the end here, and all these green flag stops means we've got drivers with slightly different ages of tyres out there as well, which is giving us some of these battles that we've got. The newer tyres definitely helping Polisek as Smith lights them up once again, coming onto the pit straight. About the move, Polisek pulls out. He's looking to the inside of turn 1 and not close enough. He's just a bit more gentle, a bit earlier on the brakes. Not going to take the chance this time, but he's looking, sniffing around for 4th place.
Ooh. Love the sound of these things running around the track. Got another battle forming up here between Jake Johansson and Alex Witt for 7th and 8th place. And it looks like Alex Witt's gotten a slightly better run than Jake out of the last corner on the S's there, heading up the back straight, catching that draft and peeking out. And we'll see if he's able to make it work too wide into the big bend this time. Ooh, and they're keeping it too wide. Yeah, Alex Witt's going to get by, though. Alex Witt's had a fairly eventful race, but it's one that's paid off for him. Up 10 places since the start of the race, and with some pretty solid lap times, he might have something for Anthony Burrows, but he's going to have to make up more than a few seconds, almost 7, in order to get his way into the battle for the top 5.
This is an interesting one because Witt and Johansson pitted on the same lap, so their tyres are the same age here as well. Right behind them is 1 lap fresher tyres for Benjamin Morton, who's trying to get in on this one as well. So great battle for these guys, 7th, 8th, and 9th right now. Witt made that move very well at the far end of the circuit, but then has not shaken Johansson whatsoever. And Morton is trying to work out how he's going to benefit from this.
And we're starting to come to the point where these guys are, not having as much benefit from the fresh tires as they were before. And Alex Albert is still making ground on Ferenz Arabian at the front, but Arabian is managing to hold on to second and losing less on laps. Every lap they go deeper into the stint. Now, I don't know if these radials have a cliff on them. I certainly haven't seen it yet, but man, Arabian is pushing it to the limit, that's for sure. I can't imagine them going much longer than he has. Certainly double stinting them is going to be a struggle.
It's very much possible to wear the tires down fast enough to the point where they puncture and pop. And that, I guess, even if you don't overheat them and, lose the grip that way, it's still possible that you just wear the tires down too far. And that's my worry for Arabian, still with 19 laps to run. I mean, at some point, sure, the tires are great for 5 laps and then sort of plateau a bit, but eventually you work them hard enough or long enough, there's got to be a cliff where they really drop away. So this is a fantastic long run on the tires from Arabian, but you have to think that he's no longer in contention for the win in this race the way it stands. Surely, following the same strategy as Tyler, he had enough of a pace advantage to get the job done.
Yeah, it's hard to say. He is getting all the help that Mother Nature can provide, though. This cloud cover is actually causing our track temperature to drop even further down to 85 after starting over 100 at the beginning of the race. The sun has been shadowed for almost 10 minutes here and making a big difference for what those tires are going through. It's also, clearly becoming very, very heavily rubbered in out there. So I wonder if that's playing into his decision as well, because last time by, he was exactly as fast as Alex Albert, within 100th of a second. So, this might still work out. I'm very interested to see how it plays out for him. Alex Albert certainly, though, sees Arabian ahead of him and is charging sideways through the S's that time as they head onto the back straight.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. We started this race with a very hot, very green track. It's now rubbered in and coolest it's ever been. Aaron Smith in 5th, under pressure from Burrows now, and these two guys have fought plenty of laps in this race. Smith is very wide, gets over the edge of the banking in the carousel there, and that is not what you want to do at all. The racetrack is nice and banked, but there's no banking there in that paved runoff. You kind of go past that white line over that lip, and you saw how much time that cost him. Thankfully, he wasn't close to putting it in the wall, but he's lost that spot and that fight. You got to look one position further back for the battle for 7th place to find any action in your top 10 now.
Yeah, and Aaron Smith has struggled a few times with that corner. Of course, that's where he spun earlier in the race. He got on those marbles, though, and that thing was gone. And I think that's going to become a consideration, too, in the last 15 laps. Here we have 17 to go, because the marbles...
Wide for 8th, 9th, and 10th into turn 1. Philip Resch wisely backs out of that one. But Benjamin Morton is going to stick his nose in front of Jake Johansson and grab that spot. And now Resch is side by side with Johansson coming towards the S's and is going to grab that spot. So smart stuff by Resch in the Pennzoil car there, just bide his time to grab that spot. He had a great 4-car pack here battling 7th through to 10th, all of them on their tires to get them to the end.
Well, and that was another example of what I was talking about before. Jake Johansson got out in the marbles on the outside of that turn, and he could not get it turned in to the bottom of the S's, had to do a big lift and basically gave that spot away to Philip Resch. So pushing the guy in front of you off the line is going to become a critical move for these guys who are looking to make up positions late.
Yep, no doubt. A lot of marbles offline, as you say, and the grip is really on the normal racing line. These tires have been shedding for 75 laps now, and shed they do for some drivers. And Alex Witt finds exactly the same thing through the final corner. Now Benjamin Morton's looking to size him up as well. Going to come across the line there, nearly side by side. And once again, Philip Resch looking for an opportunity to capitalize off the drivers in front, battling too wide into turn one, and somehow Witt is going to find a bit of traction on the outside there, but they're still nose to nose. The Thunderbirds should be beak to beak, I guess, there. And the inside coming into the S's, much stronger there for Morton. He grabs himself another spot to the front of this train.
And Johansson's getting a nice run through the S's too. He's right up on Philip Resch's bumper. See if he can turn that draft into something at the end of this straight. Though maybe Resch has a little bit more gear in it because he's managed to at least hold him off as they head down towards the big sweeper here. Ooh, and things are a little tight just in front of him.
Yeah, it's different gearing. There's different spoiler angles that you can have. And some of our drivers might have more straight line speed. Some others might not. Well, yeah, it's still a fantastic pack. And it looks like, you know, one driver might have the edge and then they struggle and the other drivers behind find something. Morton, I think, looks like one of the stronger drivers of these four. He's trying to break away from the rest, but it's not quite working. So now Witt is under pressure from Resch. They're going to be side by side. Another Thunderbird battle into turn one. Resch with the inside looking stronger and is going to grab that spot. So this is a battle that just keeps giving. Fantastic to see the green flag running we've had and the drivers still finding some great battles, giving each other a bit of respect, bit of space, but still, you know, fighting it at almost every opportunity.
And I have just noticed a very late pit stop there from Rylan Potter. And well, he's at the tail end of the lead lap, so I'm not sure how consequential this is going to be. But it will be interesting to see if he can find any pace on those fresh tires. You know, the right move might work out for him.
Yeah, I'm looking at second place, where Arabian has decided those tires are just not going to last, and he's down on pit road again. So not taking those tires, the wrong call. After 12 laps, he's back on the lane for another green flag stop, which is going to prove pretty costly because now he's dropped from second to sixth, and the trainer cars for seventh is going to swing on through as well. This time, the tires, the jack goes underneath the car on the left-hand side and then goes underneath on the right-hand side. It's 22 seconds to change all four tires. We've got a 1987 specification pit crew as well.
I think they're wearing a little more safety gear than they were back then, but you're absolutely right. It's a slow pit stop and a pretty long pit lane here too. But you know, he might also be remembering that point earlier in the race where he got a big edge because a caution came out after he pit. And if a caution comes out, he's certainly going to be leading this race. So never fully count him out, but the field is pretty stretched out. So barring a blowout, I'm not sure I'd expect someone to give him a chance to catch up.
Big C is under some pressure in 10th from Mia Ott, and we've still got our favourite four-car battle from what's now 6th on down as well. So plenty of action to bring us to the end here at Watkins Glen in the HJ87 Bud at the Glen.
And Morton there is getting passed by Rylan Potter. I mentioned him earlier, of course, taking those tires, making quick work of these guys, really just flying by them with no real struggles. But he is on the fresher tires and a lap down, and all these guys are up on the lead lap. And you can see the difference in slip angle as he chases, I believe that's Philip Resch, out of the top of the S's.
Well, they had a look at Clifford Eben into turn one. Now Eben is going to defend for his life in the carousel. And it's going to try to... Oh, Ott has one car width to the outside. The two come together. Ott's in the wall. Is Eben going to be able to stop it? No, both of them are in the fence. The entry to the carousel. And Was enough space given there? My goodness.
Looks like they've got him going fast enough that race control has decided no caution necessary. So we're going to keep this run going.
Those are two very, very damaged-looking 87 Cup cars. A Monte Carlo and a Thunderbird with plenty of damage on them. And I think this isn't done yet between these two. They've both got it going. They're battling once again. Neither of them need a repair. Neither of them are coming onto the lane from what I can see. Am I wrong?
Yeah,
both of them staying out. They're going to battle into turn one once again. Ott is to the inside. Eben is not back across onto the racing line, going to squeeze all the way to the inside of turn one. They rub a bit of panels again. This time, Ott has the position, but is there any radiator damage for either of these cars? Are they both going to make it to the end? What's the damage?
The front end of both of those cars looks pretty ugly, more street stock than Monte Carlo, and that's for sure. But I don't have the radio scanner turned on, but I can see that Mia is sending a lot of messages, and I can't imagine that they're very happy after that contact with Clifford and Evan. So that's a disappointment for both of them, and you're right, we'll see if either of them makes it to the end with that front end damage. Lap 79 here, going on 80, 10 laps to go at the Glen.
Yeah, it is 10 laps to go for your leader, Jeff Tyler, right now. So he is in a good position, 8 seconds clear of Alex Albert. A couple tenths faster on the last lap, and that's sort of been true of the long run green flag pace for both of those drivers. Tyler's just sort of had the edge over Albert. The next great battle, well, third, the final step on the podium, I think Michael Polasek has been catching Anthony Burrows.
Yeah, he's certainly been making up some ground over the last few laps, and it looks like he would have pit last. What lap is that? He pit about 4 laps later than Anthony Burrows did, so he should have the fresher tires. So interesting to see how that plays out. Aaron Smith, of course, a couple of issues, but he's not too far back either. One slide or one bit of contact between those guys will bring him right up into the shuffle.
Oh, Alex Albert, big issue.
Oh, no.
Not seeing a lot of damage on the car, but through the penultimate corner, Albert, on his own, tires on the grass, centered around, and that's cost him a handful of positions. He was moderately comfortably in second there, and he's made a mistake all by himself. Nudge the wall, but not a lot of damage. He'll keep going, but man, that is tough for Mr. Jass.
And looking back at 7th, 8th place, our favorite group is back together again. It looks like Ben Morton and Alex Witt are having a go, with Jake Johansson looking on real closely as they head into the S's. Alex had the advantage going into turn 1. Ben Morton got the outside line, and now they are neck and neck, real close together on the exit of the S's. And you can see those cars are slipping and sliding all over the place. Real show driver skill getting them up over 160 miles an hour on the back straight.
Yeah, 15 laps on those tires already for these guys. 9 more to go as they dive into the carousel here. Morton trying to fend off Witt and Johansson. Every brightness of color on these cars here, the white Thunderbird, the black Monte Carlo, and that bright baby blue car for Morton leading the way at the minute, absorbing all the pressure from Witt and giving up nothing. Someone's off. Philip Resch is off the circuit in front of them, and these guys swoop through and they all gain 1 more position, so don't see a whole lot of damage for Resch there. But it is just showing that penultimate corner deceptively tricky here. Now Morton's under pressure. Witt looking to the inside of 1. Still going to have enough room on the inside.
Yeah, and it looked like Resch there just locked up the rears and maybe, hopped the tires a little bit. Easy to do, and even easier when you're running out of grip. 8 laps to go.
This battle is far, far from done. They're bumping. Oh, Morton lights up the tires on the exit of the S's, gets on the grass, whittles his way back onto the circuit, onto the grass, and then into the Armco. I'm not sure he'll actually pick up too much damage. He might keep going, but he's lost the spots there.
Yeah, and you see these guys real struggling. That was Witt, and he's locked it up, gone straight on at the carousel as well. He's going to have to get that thing down to 30 miles an hour to get it turned the right way. Back on track, losing spots. And who is that? Passing them by? Oh, it looks like Kyle Clements. Oh, no, both of those are lappers. So he'll have to fight his way through those if he wants to have a hope of getting back up into that battle for 7th. Which has actually become the battle for 6th? Yeah, because of all the spins with Resch going around behind him.
So some battles to bring us to the end of this race. Burrows and Polasek in 2nd, and then Morton, Johansson, Resch showing no signs of giving way. Fantastic battle from these guys.
And you know what? You know who's right behind him there? That's Ferenz Arabian. He's managed to make up some ground thanks to all these guys having issues. So, solid top 10 day for him, but you're right. No chance at the end of the race here, I got to think.
Yeah, 13.2 last time from Arabian. He's flying along, obviously, on those new tyres, but having to make an extra pit stop definitely cost him the chance of a podium. Jake Johansson going to grab a spot away from Morton there. Through the carousel, and so now
Morton's making a move on Jake Johansson.
Yeah, he's trying to get it back to the inside in the penultimate corner. Gives plenty of room on the exit so everyone can keep it on the paved stuff, but they're still side by side through the final corner. And Johansson gets a bit loose, gets a tap from behind from Resch, and Morton has been the big winner through that one, defending his place and his honor.
And his honor.
Hey, it's big bragging rights in HJ special events.
Yeah, you're sure right about that.
Think about it. If Tyler wins, are we ever going to hear the end of it?
Oh, no way. Someone get out there. Come on, lap car. Take him out. Just kidding. But he's got a 15-second lead. Yeah,
it's a big lead for him after that spin from Alex Albert. So Burrows in 2nd, no longer under pressure from Polasek, who's dropped back a little bit. Maybe his older tyres not holding in quite as well.
Yeah, and just behind them, we've got Alex Albert and Aaron Smith now battling for 4th and 5th place. Both of them making up little bits of time on the guys ahead. Half second here, 0.2 there. Trying to catch up to Polasek and Burrows, who gave them the slip earlier when both of them made mistakes. And Philip Resch gets around Jake Johansson there. So the grip packs are not working for Jake Johansson as Philip Resch in that Pennzoil car takes the spot back.
Yeah, some dings on the car for Philip Resch, but it's certainly, as long as all the tyres are pointing all the right way and everything underneath the bodywork is working, these cars are not aerodynamically sensitive. I don't think anyone in 1987 knew what the term aerodynamically sensitive meant in the NASCAR Cup Series. So yeah, great battling between these guys. Let Morton get a gap on them in 6th.
Now you remember Miat and Clifford Eben and their little grudge match that was happening back in 12th and 13th place? Well, it's still going. They just went side by side all the way up through the S's, and wowee, those two are battling hard. I think Miat is holding the preferred line while Clifford tries to break the draft. We'll see how it looks on the other side of this next corner.
They tangled earlier in spectacular fashion. Got through, went up the road a little bit, and then has had another further incident, and is now back at it in this battle with Eben as they come into the penultimate corner. Defense down. Little nudge, just a little nudge. No one seems to be the worse off from that one. And I'm sure you can't make these cars look much worse than they are. There's not a non-crinkled body panel on either of them. As now Eben moves all the way across to the right-hand side of the racetrack to try and slam that door. Has the run towards turn 1. And is either of them going to shoot in too hot into the 90? Doesn't seem like it's still side by side. No love lost here. No ground given as they're into each other
Oh.
once again at the bottom of the S's.
And both of them managed to hold on to it, though. These two are just throwing haymakers at this point in the race. 4 laps to go, and neither one wants to give up 12th place.
Richard Tam, who has some damage, but not as much damage on that Mountain Dew Monte Carlo. So 3 car scrap towards the end here as well as Richard Tam joins the party. Same age of tyres for the number 13. So Evan, Ott and Tam all pitted about the same time, about 20 laps ago. Those tyres are worn on all of these cars, I feel.
Now, I blinked and missed something, and Polisek all of a sudden made up a bunch of ground on Anthony Burrows. He's right behind him. And then just behind him in the order, Alex Albert actually made up some time. It's not really clear to me. I think Aaron Smith missed a shift. Anyways, Alex Albert was able to get by on the back straight last time through, and Polisek's going to be trying his hand at a similar move on Anthony Burrows here. Let's see if he can make it stick. 3 laps to go.
Yeah, we're working lap 87 of 90 right now. Big green flag run from about the halfway point of the race. Polisek right with Burrows is defending about half a car width there and is not going to give up that second place just yet. Yeah, leader Jeff Tyler has just started 3 laps to go, 16 seconds up the road from this cracking scrap for second and third. Polisek on average has definitely been quicker, but it is tough to find a way around when the tyre age is similar and the cars are on similar pace.
Yeah, you might have to take a page out of Mia and Clifford's book, because those two switch spots again. Because I don't know, without a bump, it's going to be hard to get by when the cars are handling as poorly as they are at this point. Checking back into 6th place, Philip Resch and Ben Morton have gotten themselves stuck back together again. Philip Resch has made up some ground, tapped Ben actually in the first turn there, but didn't lose any time. And actually, you know what? Aaron Smith has decided that his tires are done. So whether that was a flat that caused him to lose a bunch of time there or what, he's had to take a pit stop. Doing the Rusty Wallace, unfortunately not from the lead. He's going to lose a significant amount of time here towards the end, down in 15th place.
Yeah, indeed. So, still this little battle here. Morton and Resch.
Ooh, and Morton takes a punt there from Resch. Will he catch it? Neither one got themselves slowed down there for that corner. And this is Kyle Clemens coming by. He's a couple laps down, but trying to make his moves. Looks like that split them up a fair bit, though. Polisek and Burrows, though, are still glued together. But I'm not sure that Polisek has the pace to do it. He's running faster laps on the stopwatch, but it's a few hundredths there. It's, he really needs to figure out where he's going to be able to make this move, unless he's already got it in his back pocket and he's waiting for the last lap to do it.
Speaking of the last lap, through the final corner comes the leader, Jeff Tyler, to see the white flag. Final lap of the race for him, and therefore everyone else as well. So it's flown by under these green flag runs. Battles still to be decided in several places out on the circuit, including 2nd place and for 6th place. You have to imagine.
Got to run this time. He's looking to the inside. Is he going to make his dive? Yes, he is. He gets alongside. Ooh, and those two, you could hardly hold a piece of paper between them, but looks like Polisek's got the better, Burrow's got the better run, and Polisek's going to have to cede the position as they head into the S's. We'll see. One more chance at the big bend there at the end of the back straight. He'll have a chance to try and make his way by Anthony Burrows.
Yeah, only a couple opportunities left. I mean, there's only 4 braking zones around the lap regardless. So at the moment, you feel like that was the opportunity for Polisek, and he needs a mistake out of
Burrows runs wide.
Yeah, they are side by side. Burrows out in the grass is not going to help his run whatsoever. They're still side by side, but you have to look at your leader, Jeff Tyler, taking the checkered flag right now. He's delighted with that one. Now back to second place.
Over under, Polasek takes the inside. Now the outside for the next corner. He manages to clear Burrows. Oh, but he's run wide. He's out in the marbles. Who's going to be able to get the power down? These two are spinning the tires on their way out. Fender's tapping. Oh, and it looks like Polasek's got him at the line. Oh, what a good move there. Last few corners. That was awesome.
300ths of a second for those two guys in a photo finish for second place after 90 laps at Watkins Glen. You love to see it. You absolutely do. Philip Resch and Jake Johansson aren't going to be quite as close, but certainly, not far apart there. Great battles to the checkered flag at the end.
And it looks like Mia Ott was able to sort out her disagreement with Clifford Eben, finally taking the checkered flag a few seconds ahead of Eben after all of their disagreements for 11th and 12th place. Man, that was an awesome race there, Haynes. And I got a big grin on my face. That was real fun to watch.
Yeah, what a great, exciting last 30, 40 laps or so. Some different strategies out there and some cars battling it real hard, which was amazing to see. We've had everyone finish now, so ought to be able to bring up those results where your winner is Jeff Tyler, who had 18 seconds in hand over Michael Polasek, who finished in second. Burrows in third, Alex Albert in fourth, Benjamin Morton in fifth place, Philip Resch in sixth, Jake Johansson in seventh. Florence Arabian could have been a winner, I think, but big mishandling on the strategy there. It was unfortunate to see finishes in eighth. Alex Witt in ninth, Dylan Blanton in 10th. And then in 11th, you get Mia Ott ahead of Clifford Eben in 12th. Just held off Richard Tam in 13th, Travis Floyd 14th, Aaron Smith. Late pit stop, might have had a puncture, we are hearing. Gets 15th. 16th for Ryland Potter, Tommy Toe in 17th. Jacob Alasia in 18th, Wansti Lin in 19th, and Keenan Kusin finishes in 20th.
I've lost my breath there. But I'll leave you so that you can make some room in the booth here for some of our winners.
Yeah, certainly can. Going to grab our race winner, Jeff Tyler. Real close towards the end there with you and Florence Arabian, but in the end, you had enough pace for him, and he might have mishandled the strategy there. How was the tire line?
Hey, I don't know if you guys can hear me or not. I've been having some microphone trouble. But yeah, it was really close with, I think his name was Ferenz. He seemed to be better once the tires were really, really worn out, but I seemed to have a little more pace in the beginning of the stint.
I have to crank my volume there to be able to hear our winner, Jeff Tyler. But congratulations there. I mean, a lot of cautions at the start, but then when we really got into the green flag run, it showed who'd done their setup work.
Yeah, don't worry too much about qualifying pace in the practice. I let everybody else kind of fight that out and just focused on long run pace. So here we are.
Well, congrats on taking top step of the podium in the HJ87 Bud at the Glen. What's your feeling for these cars? Were you a big fan of NASCAR on road courses growing up, or just a fan of them?
Yeah, no, I've always really liked stock cars on road courses. They're really fun to watch. It's great racing because the cars are so heavy and under tired. You have really long braking zones and kind of slow corners, so you can end up with some really fun battles.
Any parting words, thanks to give here, or what else is on your mind?
No, just thanks, David, for commentating and hosting. Really appreciate it. And thanks to all the competitors. It was really fun. So.
There we had our winner, Jeff Tyler. We can grab second place, Michael Polisek. And how was your heart rate on that final lap, my friend?
I think you're going to have to get bigger charge for that. I think that was hands down the best race I've ever had on iRacing. Just that was some of the most intense driving I've ever had to do because the tires had no grip in them. They were overheating. I was just pushing every last bit I could out of myself to make sure I didn't bin it, as well as trying to catch Anthony. And then when I was just trying to find a way past, I thought that I had that race lost when I missed the final corner, but I was somehow able to get some traction and win the drag race to the line. But that was just insanely good racing. That was nice, clean, respectful racing.
Delighted to have you. Delighted you put on a good show for us. I mean, a lot of cautions early in the race where a lot of people, decided to play the safe thing and just, pit with the cautions, but then big green flag run to get us to the end, everyone making green flag stops. When it just kept going green there and you realize you're in the window to stop and get to the end, what was your thought process? What was the strategy there? Go long, take some good tires at the end, or try and get an undercut?
Well, I guess there's a factor of things that kind of went into my strategy there. I think the main thing was just the setup, because Richard Tam and Richard Tam built most of the setup. The setup was really, really good. And we engineered it so that it wasn't that great on the short runs, but it was incredibly fast on a long run. So what we did was I was just hoping for a very, very long green flag run, and I was very happy that happened. And pretty much all I had to do was just eventually make it like 28, 29 laps and hopefully even out the stints, just so I know that I won't get like a puncture or anything like that. So I did just that, came into the pits on lap 63, and I was good till the end. And I pretty much was just trying to keep the car under me, try and keep the tires as fresh as I can. And I'm just happy that I was able to save my tires enough to the point where I could finally attack Anthony for P2 right there.
Obviously, these 87 Cup Cars, very recent addition to the iRacing service. That's why we've gone and hosted this event. What's your feeling about them on a road course now, having turned 90 laps in race conditions?
Well, they're not easy. I got to say that. They're very, very demanding. And because the car changes so much over the course of an entire stint, from the tires overheating mainly, you really have to learn how to save the tires, how to keep the car underneath you, and pretty much how to handle all 625 or 650 horsepower of this car, because it's not an easy car to drive whatsoever. But I really enjoyed it over the course of the 90 laps. Also, having a really good setup on it is absolutely essential. And if you can nail the setup and nail how you have to drive the car, because this drives unlike anything else on the iRacing service. So if you can nail how to actually drive this thing, then you're going to be in really good shape and you're really going to enjoy this car.
Well, thanks for showing up for another HJ special event. We'll definitely let you know about any ones going on in future if you're going to put on a photo finish like that one for us. Anyone you want to thank, man?
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank my sponsors, Grand Prix New York and GT Hub. I also got to thank my team, Lone Wolf Motorsports. And I got to thank Richard Tam, Tommy Toe, and Wangxi Lin for all being in the same voice channel. We were all talking about how to plan the race and how to drive it throughout the entire race. I also got to thank my friends and family for giving me every ounce of support that they can. I also got to give a special shout out to Keenan Kusin, who was also in this race at twitch.tv/MrHD. He's a really, really nice guy. And I also got to thank you guys for putting this on, because this was an absolutely incredible event. I really, really enjoyed it.
Thank you so much. And there's a lot of other people that have helped me out with this event. We've got our producer, Michael Derby. Devin Peters was commentating with me. We had our volunteers in race control, Kyle Smith, and we had, I think, Chris Nisley there as well. So a bunch of people from HJ coming together to put this event on. From our second place finisher there, Michael Polisek, we moved to the other driver involved in that fantastic finish, Anthony Burrows. Any disappointment to lose out on second place right at the end there, or were you just happy to be involved in the action?
I Honestly, I was kind of expecting to finish fourth or fifth, beginning of that, like after I got done with pit stops and everything. So got lucky. I think two people spun in front of me. So that was definitely some good luck too. But yeah, a little disappointing coming that close. I was ahead of him most of that run. He just had me covered on the long runs. I just really didn't have much for him. But yeah, heck of a race with him. That's for sure one of the best races I've ever had on here.
Yeah. So, I mean, your thoughts about this Cup car on a road course? I, turned some practice laps myself, and I don't think there's a corner you can put in front of these cars that doesn't require, brakes or breezing off the throttle. Coming up through the S's, not a challenge in many other cars, but how did you find it in this car?
I'm not sure. I mean, I was getting the S's down pretty good. I felt like that was my best area of the track. I kind of struggled through the low speed corner. Yeah, I just put in a good bit of practice laps and kind of just found a feel for the car. I felt like it wasn't too hard to drive on the short run, but the biggest thing was just saving your tires and making sure you don't kill them and lock it up each corner. I kind of struggled with that tonight, but overall, I think I did pretty decent with that.
Setup wise, you got any hints for anyone who's going to throw one of these classic Cup cars at a road course? I mean, there's a couple of things you can change with the spoiler angle, the final drive ratio. What worked for you today?
I actually just drove on the fixed setup. I couldn't really find much time change anything with it. I'm not really a big setup guy, so I just went out and rolled with the fixed setup.
Well, roll it. You did there. Just a couple hundredths of a second between you and Polasek for second. You finish on the podium nonetheless. And got any closing thoughts on this one?
Overall, I kind of hope I can do another road course race with these again. That's definitely a good time. I'm really exhausted after that, though. I'm gonna take a break after this, but yeah, I definitely want to do something like this again.
Well, it was a delight to have you, and hopefully you'll keep your ear out for future HJ special events. We go third place finisher Anthony Burrows. There's a couple other drivers and others hanging around we might have a word with. I'll see if there's one more driver who takes my fancy. I know who I want. Alex Albert in fourth place. This event was initially your idea, so I'm delighted you got to race in it. Tell us about running in second and those last 30 laps or so.
Yeah, I was just first of all, just want to thank everyone for working the event. It was a lot of fun. Yeah, the race started off pretty well for us. We qualified better than I thought we would. Ran there in the front pack in the beginning. Got shuffled back a little bit in the pit stops. Took a chance on one of the early stops in pit. No one else really pit. That got me way back in traffic with Mia. Luckily, we were able to work through the traffic without getting any damage or anything. And I was kind of surprised that I got back within a second of Jeff during that long run there at the end, considering, being back in traffic and having to work my way up through there. So all in all, happy with the end result. At the beginning of the day, my goal was top 5. Top 4 is good still. A little sad that not able to get the second place finish today. Just couldn't get it in the gear in that penultimate corner. Got up on the rumble strips, just lost it, got into the barriers a little bit and spun it around. So luckily no one got into me whenever I was getting going again. So thanks to all those guys, and congratulations to Jeff. He was class of the field.
You had your eyes out there all day. If you had to award a livery of the day, what caught your attention? What was your favorite livery or your favorite throwback?
Well, I guess the one that was maybe the most memorable to me was Mr. Arabian's paint job from Daytona, USA. It's it really took me back to my childhood. So I think that's my vote, Mr. Arabian's Paint. And not sure what happened to his race. He was really running strong. Thought he was going to be right up in there in the mix. I was starting to catch him there in that last run, and then he pit. So not sure. I guess he just didn't have the fuel right. Yeah.
Before I'll tell you before anyone else does, the green flag stop that was everyone's final green flag stop, Arabian didn't take tires, and then 10 laps later realized that they weren't going to get to the end 60 laps on a set of tires with this car and had to make another stop there.
That's a bummer. The green flag stops were a lot of fun. The yellow flag stops were a nice change of pace, but the green flag stops were interesting. I went as far as I could on fuel. A little miscalculation on the strategy. I wish I'd have taken more fuel in the stop prior to that. Aaron Smith had to pit. I think he had a little bit of damage. He was who I was racing at the time. He pit about 2 laps before I did. Then I went as far as I could on gas. And then that seemed to trigger something to where the rest of the field just pit within the next, 2 laps. It seemed like everyone was on the lane. So it was really interesting how that worked out.
Well, thanks so much for your support and coming in chat with us and putting on a race, Alex.
Yeah, I hope it was a good show. It was fun from where I sat, and I think all the drivers had a good time. So maybe we'll do it again sometime soon when we get something new out there to put on a nice special event for everyone.
Yeah, there we go. And I want to thank everyone who's tuned in, everyone who supported this event, and big thanks also to all of our drivers who put on some racing today. I've been David Haynes. Devin Peters has joined me. Our producer's been Michael Derby. And like I said, in race control, Kyle Smith and Chris Knisley. You want to keep up with everything we're doing at Team Hugh Jass, then you want to subscribe to us here on YouTube. And we have broadcasts coming up. Next is Wednesday night, championship round of the Champ Car iRacing series. And we'll be broadcasting that all year long, as well as more special events as well that you are going to want to hear about. Thank you so much for all of your support tuning into this amazing and exciting 90-lap race at Watkins Glen. Real welcome to those 87 Cup cars, throwing them around a road course here. See you all soon. Good night.